remind me to take some pictures of this setup you got. I got a friend who wants to do a podcast.
Yeah, okay.
Show him what you need.
Sure thing. It's pretty simple. But welcome back for the Ramsey Dewey Podcast episode number something or other. I lost track. It's not even that far up there. It's like, are we in the 20s? I think we're in the 20s.
Don't ask me. You're Ramsey Dewey of the Ramsey Dewey Podcast. You got to know.
That's right. But you've been on technically two of these. You showed up once, but we ended up filming two podcasts because we got interrupted by my kids, and so we split it up into two YouTube uploads, and yeah. So Andrew Parker, also known as Dewey Parker, is back again for another episode. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we were having a little discussion about Dana White's proposed Fight Island.
That's right.
What is up with that, man?
I mean, first of all, it's a beautiful name. Fight Island just captures the imagination, I think. And it just sounds amazing. But yeah, the most recent thing I heard is Dana White is planning to go forward with it. He's working on it. They're planning to hold some events in Florida, I believe. Florida has been kind of lax about the whole quarantine thing, and they're sort of pushing professional sports. I know the governor is kind of, he's on the side of let's get back to normal and, let's get a lot of people in the same room again. So they're going to they're planning to hold 3 events in Florida in May. But he said Dana White was saying Fight Island could be ready in June. In June?
Yeah. So they're... Man, how long is the expected quarantine in the United States? I mean, here in Shanghai it was what, like 3.5 months? Something like that.
I was gone. Yeah, it was at least that, because I was gone for more than 2 months.
Yeah.
And when I got back, it was still there. We had another month to go. So yeah, over 3 months for sure.
I've got to ask you, how often do you get asked by local Chinese people, have you been here the whole time? or did you leave and then come back and bring the disease with you?
Yeah, well, I've been back for quite a long time now, so those questions have stopped. But at the beginning, yeah, it was definitely a big concern coming back. But they had it on lockdown. Like when I got back, actually, while I was traveling, I think while I was in the air, Canada got added to the list of countries that were, the red zone. They weren't so favorable anymore. So as soon as I landed, they got me on a bus and sent me to a testing facility, tested me, of course, negative, and then I was able to go to my apartment for a 2-week quarantine.
Did they do the test where they stick the thing up your nose?
Oh, my goodness. Right up there, yeah.
Oh, man.
Way up there. It was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but amazing infrastructure. Like, the airport had been totally rearranged to accommodate this.
Was this the Pudong airport?
Yeah. Landed at Pudong. They had a whole system in place. I was actually very fortunate. I arrived very early in the morning, so I didn't have to wait as long as I had heard some people did. Like even waiting on the plane before you're able to get into the airport, people have waited for a very long time, 8 hours. Like I've heard all kinds of crazy numbers, after you've just had a 12 or 13-hour flight. So thankfully, I was able to get off the plane pretty quickly, and then they had this whole system. Like we went through all these lines. They separated people by district so that they could take you to a testing facility in your area. They put me on a bus, sent me there, tested me. I waited around 5 hours for the results, which again was not as bad as I had heard. And then once it was negative, they put me on another bus, and they took us all home and checked me in with my community, and there I was for 2 weeks.
Yeah, wow. I just got asked yesterday by actually somebody that I knew, a Chinese friend that I knew, but they looked at me all suspiciously like I had the plague.
Yeah.
Have you been here this whole time? Like with a sense of urgency that was kind of shocking. I was like, yeah, it's okay. Chill out. I'm not infected, man. I'm not one of them. It's like, man, this situation's been likened a lot to a zombie apocalypse film so many times, but...
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of xenophobia coming out of it. Like, you're no more likely to have the disease if you did go to, home to America or wherever, if you went on vacation during Spring Festival. I mean, I went on vacation and I was in Philippines and Thailand, places where there were no cases of the virus while I was there.
Yeah.
And then, comparing that to being in China when things were really blowing up, it was probably safer to be on the beach. But yeah, people were really concerned about any foreigners coming back.
It's a big concern. I don't know if you saw any of the signs out there saying, like, no foreigners allowed in this establishment,
Right.
no foreigners allowed in this apartment complex.
Yeah, I did see that, and it was very strange to me because every sign said, "We're sorry, we have just been informed that we're not allowed to accept foreigners." Like, who informed you of that? Where is this coming from? There was no one was in charge of that decree.
It's a very reflexive way of terming something. It's kind of like in Spanish, you say things like, se habla español. I mean, literally, Spanish is spoken here, as opposed to, here we speak Spanish. Because if you say, here we speak Spanish, that's, it's a little more imperative. It's telling you who is giving the order, us, we.
Yeah.
But Spanish is spoken here. It's so neutral.
Yeah, we can't control it. It just happens here.
Exactly. It's just the situation. Yeah. The powers that be.
Yeah.
Out of our control because of, an act of God. Well, no, because the CCP is atheist. So,
Right. An act of sky.
An act of the universe. I guess they believe in the universe, sure. So,
The only xenophobia that I've seen that makes sense is these foreigners who are still like bucking the rules and not wearing masks and stuff. Like, just put on a mask. It's not that hard.
yeah.
If you get asked to put on a mask, like going into a community or whatever, just do it. Why are you making a fuss? They make us all look bad, all of the foreigners here that are trying to follow the rules.
I know, man. I notice a lot of locals out there are walking around without masks, and at this point, I think there was a municipal order given that, like, outside, it's no longer required, but it's totally still expected.
Yeah.
Like, this
That's
order
socially,
came.
for
Yeah,
sure.
and my wife was like, cool, I don't have to wear a mask. Went out jogging without a mask, and the neighbor lady starts screaming, what are you doing? You're going to kill
really?
us all. You need a mask. And she was like,
wow.
didn't you hear the news? The government made a statement. We don't need it outside anymore.
Yeah. She said, well, I've been informed that we don't need to wear masks anymore.
But
Who
still,
told you
like,
that?
99% of the people out there are still wearing them.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the metro the other day with a friend who pulled her mask down to reveal her nose, and it was still over her mouth. And right away, someone said, hey, well, wear your mask properly. Like, people are definitely on it, and there's definitely that social pressure to maintain it. I think that will continue for quite a while.
Man, the social pressure to conform in China, not just to this situation, but to all situations, is one of the first things I noticed right away. Just the uniformity and the conformity of the culture. Like, if you stand out, you really stand out here.
Yeah.
Like, people often ask me, what's it like being a foreigner in China? And I think the answer I generally give is, I think I would attract less attention to myself if I was wearing a giant chicken suit walking around. In fact, one year at Halloween, I dressed up as Batman. I had made this really cool, like, Batman cosplay costume sort of thing. Very comic book accurate. And I was walking to this Halloween party with my wife, and I think I drew less attention to myself as Batman walking down the street in Shanghai on a busy road than I did just being myself normally. Now,
When was that?
Halloween.
No, I mean, what, like many years ago, or?
It was before my kids were born, so it would have been like over 7 years ago.
Okay.
Now,
That's kind of crazy then.
yeah, now it's, foreigners out here in Shanghai, no big deal. If you go out to the sticks, like, some small town where they've never seen a foreigner, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. But
Yeah.
when I first got here, like a decade ago, people would take out their cameras and take pictures. That hasn't happened for a really long time.
Yeah, I agree. I went through that when I lived in smaller cities before I came to Shanghai, other Chinese cities. And yeah, people would come up and ask for pictures. Or one time I was at Changbaishan, which is a very beautiful natural tourist attraction up north. And a woman handed me her baby so she could take a picture
Oh, wow.
of me holding her baby at this beautiful natural site.
Wow.
Like, that is weird.
That's a huge level of trust, especially
I
coming
know.
from a Chinese person, because, like, babies are like the national treasure.
Yeah.
They say it's the pandas, but it's really the children.
Yeah. And then she was really upset when I dropped that baby in that mountain crater lake. But No,
I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm terrible.
No, everything went fine. We got the picture. I'm sure. Oh, she must have had a great WeChat moment from that.
Yeah, I wonder about some of these pictures. That,
where do they go?
Yes, where do they go? Like my kids. Everybody wants pictures of my kids. People run up and snap pictures of my kids all the time, and I'm wondering where are these pictures going? Are they going on social media? Do they just keep them on their phone, pull them out, look at them once in a while?
Right.
Like, I want to remember that time I saw those foreign kids I don't know.
Check the foreign folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something really nice about moving to Shanghai, and just like how well people blend in here. There's not that weird connection when back in other cities when I saw a foreigner on the street, I felt like there was pressure to talk to them. But just because you kind of look like me, like I wouldn't talk to you, back home just because hey, that guy's white or whatever. Hey, you look weird like me. Let's talk.
Do you ever have the experience of walking past a foreigner on the street and they like very obviously are trying to avoid you and they look away like, I'm not making eye contact with you, fellow foreigner.
Yeah, you're normal to me, I swear. Totally, yeah. I'm that guy trying to avoid eye contact.
We've all done it, man. We've all done it.
What were we talking about though?
Fight Island, man. Fight Island. Is this going to happen? I am wondering, since the UFC got delayed, right, and Khabib is no longer fighting Tony Ferguson. They've scheduled Justin Gaethje, I think, to fight against Tony Ferguson, it's going to be a fantastic fight, I'm sure. Yeah. But again, it's the fight everybody wanted was Khabib and Tony, right? But because of this delay, I mean, man, it just makes me think, why couldn't the fight have waited? I mean, Khabib's in Russia, Dagestan, where is he right now? I don't even know.
Quarantining in the mountains?
Quarantining in the mountains, probably. Wrestling bears again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you're saying why do the Tony-Justin fight at all? Why not just wait for Khabib?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, how long reasonably would we wait for that? Like a couple more months, 6 more months, another year?
Oh, man, that's the white whale of MMA fights right now. I think people will definitely wait.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for Tony Ferguson because you're right. Like, on one hand, maybe he should just delay, stay safe, not put himself at risk. And why do they keep delaying this fight that he really, really wants? He deserves it by now.
Yeah. I mean, there's this idea that, and it's a very false idea, but the idea that a guy who is not like the number one contender isn't really that dangerous. Like he's a warm-up fight or a tune-up fight, and this is absolutely not true, man. Even, especially in the top 10, of the division in the UFC. So a guy like Justin Gaethje, man, this dude, he's dangerous.
Oh,
he's very
absolutely
dangerous in a fight.
Yeah, this isn't just like a holding pattern for Tony Ferguson. This is a challenge. I mean, Justin Gaethje is just as crazy as he is.
He is a legitimate contender, man. He stands as much chance to take away that belt as anyone.
Yeah, he's nuts.
And of course, I'm sure we wouldn't be disappointed to see, if Justin wins, Justin versus Khabib later on. But still, there are so many questions and I think everybody wants to have answered. Like, what happens? Like, in my mind, I think, and I've been asked this question many times, what do I think will happen in this fight? My prediction was probably, I would say, 70% chance Khabib wrestle punches Tony to death. And it's kind of a long game, probably draws it out over the course of 5 rounds.
Yeah.
But there's also a significant chance, because Tony's a very different type of fighter. He holds a significant chance of laying some traps from his guard and pulling off some witchcraft from there, some wizardry.
Sure.
Who knows? Or could be something stupid like a cut over the eye, because, he's got those nasty elbows and throws them from all kinds of positions in the guard as well. So that would be a very anticlimactic way for that fight to finish, but I could see that happening.
Yeah.
What about you? What would be your prediction for that matchup? Tony Ferguson versus Khabib.
I mean, I love Tony Ferguson. I love that he is insane and you never know what he's going to do. He's thrilling to watch. But that being said, I think Khabib is just a juggernaut. Like to me, that wrestling is unstoppable. So I think, I agree with what you said, that it'd be a lot of really powerful wrestling, just trying to control Tony, keep him from doing any of that crazy stuff,
Yeah.
And over a long fight, I think Khabib would just grind it out.
Yeah, man. A lot of folks out west who they saw Khabib, they see guys like Zabit, those dudes from Dagestan, those former Soviet republics, and it just blows their mind how these guys seem to be made out of different stuff. Now, here in Shanghai, we've had the opportunity to train with a lot of guys from that part of the world, from these former Soviet republics ending in Stan.
Right.
I have yet to meet anyone from Dagestan, but like all the other Stan countries, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, man, those Kazakh guys. Did you ever have a chance to grapple with Toileo Han, or Han for short?
Han, that name sounds familiar.
Him?
Yeah.
He's an Asian-looking dude from Kazakhstan, and pretty non-imposing looking dude. But
I did. I remember him.
Incredibly tough. And that's the thing with a lot of these dudes is they're very non-imposing. They don't look like they're beasts or anything, but then you get on the mat with them and they're doing like flying flippy-dippy heel hooks and arm bars and just whatever. And I've never met anybody from that part of the world who doesn't know how to wrestle, doesn't know how to box, doesn't know how to fight.
Right.
And there was this other dude from Kazakhstan, came to the gym for a while, and again, good boxer, good wrestling, just a good fighter in general. And not a pro fighter, not even an amateur fighter, it's just part of the culture. And I asked him, like, why is it that every time I meet somebody from Kazakhstan, they all know how to fight? Like, even the girls. Seriously, there was this girl in the gym, also from Kazakhstan, Anela, and I think she works in like fashion modeling, something like that. And she was usually the only girl to show up, and she's very petite, slender, beautiful young woman, and non-imposing, not threatening at all. And she's there grappling with guys like twice her size, and I didn't think anything of it at first until this new girl came in. And I said, all right, you go with Anela, because you're about the same size.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, big mistake. So what I didn't realize was the only reason that Anela was not showing her killer technique was because she's grappling dudes twice her size. And when you're doing that, you're going to get squashed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the new girl comes in. Anela suplexes her.
Oh, my goodness.
And then arm bars her. I'm like, holy crap, I had no idea you even knew those moves. And she was like, I'm grappling guys twice my size all the time. What am I supposed to do?
Wow.
I was like, man, I'm not even mad. The girl who got slammed was mad, but she never came back. But I was like, I'm just impressed. That's wow. Never underestimate the people of Kazakhstan.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's because of the way they're brought up. And it's just a way of life for them all the time. Like, it's like when Matt Hughes was coming up and everyone was so impressed with his like farm strength.
Yeah.
And he had this wrestling background. He wrestled forever and he was out wrestling everybody. And then these guys, it's a similar thing where they've just grown up doing it. So they have all that wrestling, plus they have all these crazy techniques that nobody's used to.
Farm strength, man. I grew up in a small farming town. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up next to a farm, next to the rodeo arena, like just inside the city limits. So my family didn't have a farm. And those farm kids, though.
Those dang farm kids.
It's a different type of strength.
Yeah.
The farm kids who wrestled, it was like double farmer strength. It was like, you get the farmer strength. Like my friend Matt, he, bucked hay every day, milked the cows every day, had like a killer vice grip at like the age of 15. He had these muscles, I don't even know what it's called, but this muscle right here popped out like the size of a tangerine out of his arm from bucking hay all the time. So these guys, normal kids, they live in a city, they sleep in as long as they can, usually, they play video games, they do some chores around the house maybe. But it's not a really physically demanding life.
Yeah.
But out on a farm, it's like the rules of child labor laws no longer apply.
Right.
They never applied to farmers.
Yeah.
You have to get up and you have to milk the cows at 4 a.m. and then you got to, buck hay and change sprinkler. I can't say sprinkler pipe. There we go. Change sprinkler pipes. You got to just do all this crazy work all the time. Or else. or else,
yeah.
Or else you can't live, man. You don't eat, and it's a it's physical strength, but it's mental strength too.
Yeah, and it's work ethic. And that, I think, comes from wrestling and from being on a farm.
Yeah.
So, like, wrestlers...
Yeah, wrestling is very comparable to the farm strength because normal high school kids, they do the bare minimum to get by, and then wrestlers go, like, they do this crazy, mentally taxing, physically taxing thing that most humans would never be able to will themselves to do. And they're doing this, in junior high and high school in their teenage years, and most other kids are, busy playing video games and thinking about who knows what. So again, you combine those two things, farm strength and mat strength from wrestling. It's like this recipe to create superhumans, essentially. Like mental, physical superhumans. Or as close as you're going to get, I think.
Yeah. I knew a couple guys that were former Hutterites. So they grew up on a Hutterite colony, worked nonstop, and then they left when they were in their late teens. And these guys, I mean, they look like they should be on the cover of a magazine. It was a set of twins, and they're both just ripped. Like I remember them telling me that they would go to the gym once they were out of the colony. Of course, they would go to the gym for like 20 minutes, just storm in, throw a bunch of weights around, and guys would come up to them and be like, "Man, how do you get those abs? Or what do you do that?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just and they're not doing that much, but it's just like this lifetime of muscles that they've built up." And I'll tell you, when we played sports, any sport, didn't matter. They were competitive guys. They had that work ethic. They would go hard no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, I was afraid to play soccer with them. They were coming after you,
Yeah, it's kind of like comparing a wolf to a domestic dog. Technically, they have very, very similar DNA, but they're not the same thing, man.
Yeah, and I played all these sports like growing up, and I was on the soccer team. I played basketball and volleyball. I played whatever sports I could. But my word, I didn't hold a candle to both their level of fitness and their level of tenacity. Just how hard they went after it. Unbelievable.
What is a Hutterite? Is that like an Ammonite or a Mennonite or an Amish person, something like that?
Yeah, very similar. I would say it's similar to Mennonites. I don't know that much about the theology of it, but they're unlike Amish in that they embrace technology.
Okay.
They have, they live apart from the world though, and are on colonies by themselves, and typically do a lot of farming and other, very labor-intensive work.
So they're basically like Idahoans.
A normal Idahoan?
A normal Idahoan, yeah.
Maybe, I can't say.
Because Idaho towns are so small, they might as well be a colony. Everybody knows everybody.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's a big departure from Fight Island.
Right.
What do you think? Is this going to happen?
Back to Fight Island.
How do you get tickets to Fight Island? Is this like an exclusive thing?
I don't think you do.
Yeah.
I mean, he was talking about filming it, MMA on a beach, he was saying. So they set up a cage on a beach. I was picturing like, we've released 16 MMA fighters into the jungle of this deserted island. Let's
turn it into the most dangerous game.
Tune it in every week to see what happens. One person is eliminated. I mean, don't give them any weapons or anything. Just the MMA rules still apply.
That would be the coolest reality show ever, man.
Yeah, but you're armbarring.
Kick the Ultimate Fighter up a notch.
Flying armbar from out of a tree or something.
Oh, man.
But when you say Fight Island, I picture Battle Royale. That old Japanese movie?
Okay.
Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen it. A lot of people said the Hunger Games ripped it off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Battle Royale was like a more mature Hunger Games. They let a bunch of school kids loose, and I can't remember why, but it was a kill or be killed situation, much like the Hunger Games, but a lot more graphic. And so that's what I picture, like MMA fighters in a beautiful location trying to kill each other. So I need to control that thought process. But it does sound cool, even if it's MMA in a wonderful tropical location, a site that's solely dedicated to putting on that event. If what Dana White is saying is true, and that fighters would still have everything they need, and it would be done safely, then I mean, and he's willing to pay for it. It sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, from what I understand, I think it's going to be like closed circuit TV type of thing with I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to do it in front of an audience.
I doubt it.
You know, if they're smart, they would set up something like what Kunlun Fight has. Like Kunlun Fight, they've got their own compound. It's like this 3-level compound. They've got the actual arena, the stadium, with the seats and all that. They've got the boxing ring in the middle. Everything's all set up. It's an in-house thing. So they do events all over China. They do events in Thailand and so on. But the Kunlun Fight Combat League, that's like the feeder league into like the main Kunlun Fight promotion. That's like all in-house in this compound. And so above that, they've got a gym. It's this massive sprawling gym. It's like the size of the UFC Performance Center. It's awesome. And then they've got fighter dormitories in there as well. And then they've got like the video and audio editing and all the equipment they need to do the show right there. It's fascinating, man. I think really any major promotion thinking of taking the fight game seriously needs to seriously consider something like that. Like, one thing the UFC really needs, because they want to get their foot in the door here in China, they built a performance center here in Shanghai. They are heavily invested, putting so much money and effort into trying to develop Chinese fighters, because it's this huge potential market here, right? If they would set up a compound like that to have like a feeder league into the UFC, kind of like an amateur league, and then the amateur champions would go on to enter into the UFC, man, that would be the best idea ever. Specifically because amateur MMA is virtually non-existent in China. And so essentially what happens is you either go straight to the pros and fight like a former national Sanda champion, or right, you get lucky and maybe fight somebody at your own skill level once in a while, but most of the time you're the tomato can getting his butt kicked.
Yeah. Well, is that because there aren't the fans in place to put on a show, an amateur show?
You know, I think the interest is there. Like right now, the interest is there. There would be, I mean, they have amateur kickboxing, they have amateur boxing, there are jiu-jitsu tournaments here.
Sure.
But there's not a lot of amateur MMA. Once in a while, you'll see like an in-gym smoker fight type of thing. I've put on a few of those as well. But like any consistent level of amateur competition from a recognizable promoter is just non-existent. But that would be game-changing. And if the UFC could get on that they have the financial power, they have the facility here in Shanghai, they could do that right there at the Performance Center. Yeah,
that's true. So you're saying that they should start their own amateur league in Shanghai?
Oh, absolutely.
Not just get involved with something
like
with the
not
Kunlun
just try
Fight
to
League or
recruit, anything. Somebody from Kunlun Fight, like they got Zhang Wei Li from Kunlun Fight. They picked up a few other fighters from here and there, from other local promotions. I mean, if they really want to do their own thing, they got to start from scratch, essentially, with amateur fighters. Because right now in China, it's like all these promotions have the same guys fighting over and over again. It's like there are, how can I put this, 20 different fight promotions on any given day, any given year, and it's the same 12 guys fighting each other over and over again. It's a bit of a hyperbole, but not by much, actually.
Okay. So they need a unified amateur league.
And if the UFC put their name behind it,
oh man,
people would get behind that in a big way.
Yeah, it's really gaining popularity as an organization here in China.
Yeah,
especially with a Chinese champion, like people are really, it's becoming more legitimate than those few random people who knew about the UFC.
I'm not sure why, but for some reason it's a lot easier to get people to do amateur boxing than it is amateur MMA, which is so weird because in amateur boxing, you're going to get punched, and you're going to get punched a lot. Because that's the name of the game. Just volume punching wins amateur boxing. But for some reason, because it seems simple, you're just throwing punches and nothing else. No kicks, no takedowns, no scary submissions. People are like, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
Does it seem safer as well? Simpler and safer.
It seems safer. Because, big gloves and an amateur fight's headgear, and people associate that with safety. They think, I'm all padded up, I'm safe. Even though I think in a lot of ways the headgear exacerbates the problem and makes your head a bigger target.
Yeah.
It prevents cuts and bruises and things like that, prevents, damage to the ears. But yeah, it does nothing to stop your brain rattling around inside your head.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, it is super easy to get people to fight for free in amateur boxing. Virtually impossible to get them to do it in mixed martial arts, at least here right now. But I'm telling you, if the UFC put their name behind it and said like UFC Amateur League, something like that, people would line up to compete for free.
Yeah.
Just to tell people I'm a UFC fighter, man.
Right.
Even if it's amateur.
I'm a UFC amateur
because
fighter.
Of that, yeah, exactly. Because of that label.
Well, yeah, I think that would be huge. And once you say UFC amateur, whatever the name is, it puts that in people's minds. Oh, this is a stepping stone. If I do this, maybe it would lead to the UFC one day.
Exactly. Whereas, with like a local club skirmish,
who's going to hear
like
about
that,
me?
Nobody knows unless you take a video and get enough of those videos and send them to a dozen different fight promoters, and then one of them gives you a chance.
To be a tomato can?
To be a tomato can, exactly.
Oh, boy.
Exactly. Because a lot of these promoters out here in China in specific, they have their established roster. They have the guys they want to be the champions. They have the guys they want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to bring any wild cards in there. Like, getting fights for Chinese fighters is one of the most difficult things for a fight promoter to do, for a coach to do for his students. I've struggled with this for over a decade here in China, trying to get fights for Chinese fighters. And I've over the years, I've trained some good ones too. Like my friend Elias Zhengsheng, he's a former member of the Chinese national judo team. And he was one of my first students when I got here to Shanghai. He moved all the way from Jiangsu province to come train with me.
Wow.
And the guy was just a phenomenal grappler, picked up striking really well. And he was like, my dream is to fight in the UFC. Can you help me get a couple of professional fights so that I can, build up my resume?
Mm-hmm. I
was like, I'll do everything I can to help. And so I contacted every fight promoter I could. And they were like, we need fighters. I was like, yeah, I've got this guy. His name is Zhengsheng. They were like, that's a Chinese name. We don't need Chinese fighters. I was like, but he's good. We don't need him. We don't want him. We have our Chinese fighters already.
Oh, my goodness.
And
okay, so the roster of winning Chinese fighters had already been picked?
Yes.
And they were sticking with those people?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is. They do not want their paradigm shifted. They don't want it shaken up. Again, they don't want a wild card, some member of the judo team coming in and throwing some guy that they want to promote, that they've already made posters for and promoted and pimped out.
Wow.
They want to bring in, I don't know, like foreign English teachers who look tough on the surface but don't actually know how to fight.
Oh, he's got
tattoos. But they're desperate for a little bit of money. Yeah, he's got a tattoo. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, look how we beat this guy up. Oh, man, that sounds a lot like how boxing used to be. I don't know how it is now, but back in the day when people were just like so protective of their records and they would not take a fight under the wrong circumstances or with the wrong person. It was all about maintaining that perfect record.
Padded records, man.
Yeah.
I know, man, I know.
Oh, man, but that sounds so rough. Like, I was just thinking of more logistical things when you were saying it's hard to find fights, but to that extent where it's like, no thanks, we've got all our, we've got our 10 good-looking Chinese guys that we're set with. That makes no sense. Whatever happened to putting on the best show possible? Like, that's what fans are interested in.
Yeah, man. But it's happened so many times. Like Zhengsheng, he has a student, phenomenal student, judo black belt, this girl named Serena. She's tiny, but man, she's amazing. I don't know if you met her or trained with her. She came to the gym a number of times, to the group classes as well, but just a phenomenal fighter. And same thing, I contact every promoter I can possibly can, and they're just like, no, we don't need any more Chinese fighters. I'm like, she's good, she's better than the guys you have, better than the girls you have in your division right now. And they're like, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like reverse racism, or maybe just racism. I'm not sure.
Racist against your own people.
Yeah, I'd have to draw a diagram to make sure, but it's one of those two.
It's it's complicated, and yet it's so very, very simple. Yeah. But let's talk about fixed fights for a minute. Because there have been so many of them. Right now, we're kind of in a golden age where fixed fights, they're not a thing of the past, but it's not like every single time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some very reputable organizations, like Kunlun Fight puts on some, very high quality shows. Although there was one fight I was commenting on. I was commenting ringside, and there was a dude from Iran, this Iranian fighter, just exceptionally good, and his opponent can't lay a glove on him, and the Iranian guy is just winning every round in dominant fashion. And then at the third round, about 10 seconds before the bell, the Iranian guy raises his hand, he calls a timeout, and he waves it off and says, "I'm done," and he just walks out of the ring.
Oh, no.
And I didn't know, as a commentator, I didn't know what to say. I was like, he just walked out of the ring for no reason and quit the fight for no discernible reason. I don't know what to say about that. And I'm trying to save face for the company, saying something like, well, it must be some incidental thing the fans can't see, but inside I'm thinking, they paid him to lose. Wow. Somebody, not necessarily Kunlun Fight, but somebody involved in that matchup probably stood to make a bunch of money on a bet, I'm guessing. There was probably some gambling going on. And, yeah. But what an interesting way to throw a fight, to just beat up the guy in dominant fashion, all 3 rounds, and 10 seconds before the bell, just quit and walk away.
Isn't that, red flag much? Like, is there no one in place that would see that and say, oh, wait a minute, this looks sketchy. We should look into this?
I think that's exactly why he did it. Because, if you are essentially forced to throw a fight.
Right.
And I'm guessing he was coerced in some way, maybe through monetary compensation, maybe through a threat, who knows. But coerced to throw the fight. Man, what an incredibly bold way to do it.
Yeah. You still want some clips for your highlight reel?
Exactly.
Get them in the first 2 rounds.
Exactly.
But is there a body that is in place that is going to see that and look into it?
No, man.
Okay.
No, nobody's going to inspect this stuff. I was working as a judge for what are they called, the Rebel Fighting Championships a number of years ago, and they still haven't paid me, by the way. If you're watching, I want my money. Anyway,
I was going to say maybe we shouldn't name them, but yes, now
I
we
will
should
name them. Rebel Fighting
them.
Championships. Bunch of jerks, man.
Wow.
They put on really good-looking shows. They put on some quality fights, and they are notorious for not paying the staff and not paying the fighters. So,
are they still going?
They're still going. I don't know how. I do not know how.
Wow.
And they put out public statements saying, yes, we've paid everybody. No, they haven't. They haven't. Anyway, so I'm judging fights for Rebel, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this shady guy comes up to the judge's table, and there's a Russian fighter fighting a Chinese guy. And this guy, he says in my ear, make sure that if this fight goes to the decision, that the Russian fighter loses and the Chinese fighter wins. And I look at him like, who are you? He's like, make sure it happens or else.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
like, what is happening? Who are you? And he was like, if there's no knockout, you make sure the Chinese fighter wins every round on the scorecards, no matter what. And then he walks off into the shadows and disappears. I'm like, what the heck is that all about? Am I going to get assaulted if I walk outside if I score this fight fairly?
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the Russian guy knocked out the Chinese guy, and it was like, all right, one less thing to worry about. But
yeah. Oh my goodness.
I wonder about this situation ever since it happened. Like, what would have happened? I mean, was he just some random guy from the audience with wishful thinking, maybe, or I don't know.
No, man, that is scary. And this is not some big outfit we're talking about, right? This is not a big. Was this a big profile fight? High profile?
Not a high profile one. It wasn't like the championship bout. It was one of the undercard fights, actually.
Man.
Which was so confusing. But I'm guessing whoever that man represented had some money wagered on that Chinese fighter he wanted to win so badly.
Yeah. Do you know who the other judges were?
I knew a couple of them, yeah.
Okay. Did Did you talk to them about it? Had they also been approached mid-fight?
No, they were not approached.
Really?
By that guy. At least that's what they told me.
Yeah, I don't
At least
know
that's
what
what
you're
they told
talking
me.
about.
I don't know. Maybe
didn't-
they took some bribe money. I have no idea.
I didn't see a knockout.
That's entirely possible. But what I do know is the other judges didn't get paid either.
Oh man.
The referees didn't get paid. Man, every time I bring that up, I keep in contact with the referees. They're some good friends of mine. They've since formed their own referee union, the China Referee Union of Combat Sports, and these dudes are awesome. They're like the most legit guys in China as far as referee work goes. But yeah, they're a bunch of Chinese guys. They love the sport. They've trained in Sunda. They've trained in BJJ. They've trained in MMA. And they're always going to like all these certification seminars all over the world to just be the best at their craft of refereeing and judging fights. And they didn't get paid, man. These are the guys who deserve to get paid for doing that job. And yeah, so Rebel, pay up, man. That's all I have to say about that.
You know, a conspiracy theorist would say that Rebel is in on this whole thing. They don't pay their staff in order to create, you know, a vacuum. You need some kind of income. Maybe you'll be more likely to accept a bribe. And Rebel makes money off of betting on the fight. You know, a conspiracy theorist would say that. I'm not saying it, Rebel, but I'm saying maybe.
That's kind of like the conspiracy theories about the coronavirus right now. Like a lot of people are saying, the governments of the world have all conspired together to release the virus upon the world. And then when you answer that with, well, wait a minute, you mean the governments of the world have conspired to bankrupt themselves?
Right.
And, you know, just destroy the entire world economy for what reason exactly?
Yeah.
They're like, well, reasons.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to choose one country that would benefit from something like that right now. Everyone, take that, our own economy.
I gotta wonder, though. I mean, it's like a movie-worthy conspiracy theory if that did happen. If every government in the world, colluded together to have such a enormous grand-scale conspiracy. But what reason would they have for it?
Also, there's no way that every government in the world could get together on something and do
right?
something.
It's hard enough just to get one government to get together with itself, man.
Yeah.
You seen like the Democrats and Republicans. I always get those two confused in the United States, going at it back and forth.
Yeah.
Our side is the best. No, your side is the worst. Basically that. That's what every political debate comes down to. You guys are wrong.
Sure,
no,
yeah.
you guys are stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of that, yeah.
So we were talking about fighting video games like the UFC.
Oh, yeah.
UFC 3.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of videos on YouTube where people like make fantasy fights of the fighters they want to see go at it. And
That's right. Yeah, I've been getting into them lately. Shout out to Ricky J.
Yeah.
Ricky J putting up some great videos in that genre, whatever that genre is. And they're really interesting, largely because of this guy and the work he puts into it. He has good commentary and everything.
Yeah.
And it is, on one hand, it is interesting to see these fights that would never, ever happen. Like the tallest fighter versus the shortest fighter, the heaviest versus, like, just insane things like that. He's also done some cool Pride versus UFC tournaments.
That's how Pride used to be, giants versus teeny tiny
right,
guys.
yeah. With people that we wouldn't see doing that today, though.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is kind of interesting to see, but I mean, at the same time, I was watching one, was Takanori Gomi versus Brock Lesnar. And, you know, they're doing their normal thing, you know, Brock Lesnar going for takedowns, of course, just like he would do in real life. But then Gomi stands up, you know, and like, yeah, I'm sure he's very good at stand-ups, and maybe he has a 90 points stat on stand-ups, who knows. But would he ever actually be able to stand up against Brock Lesnar? No, I don't think so. So, while I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but like, oh, that would never, ever happen, you know? It's hard to disconnect from that reality.
Yeah. I actually don't watch much of this, but I did see one, Bruce Lee versus Conor McGregor. I guess they made Bruce Lee one of the playable characters.
Yeah.
But they have Bruce Lee doing all these moves that he's never done on film, never done in any of his movies, never talked about or wrote about in the
like
Dao
grappling?
Jeet Kune Do. Well, yeah, that too. The tornado kick, that's one. Like the Taekwondo 360 tornado kick.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if Bruce Lee could do that, but it wasn't something that he ever showed on film. Like, he had this very strict philosophy about simplifying the movement. And especially kicks. Like, he didn't even do high kicks until he met Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris talked him into doing high kicks. He was like, hey, this would look really cool in your movies. And Bruce was like, oh, okay. And a lot of Bruce Lee worshippers would take that as blasphemy because they don't want to accept that Bruce Lee ever didn't know how to do high kicks. But everybody learns from somewhere.
But the Chuck Norris lovers they're gonna love that one.
Exactly.
Can't win them all.
Chuck Norris, he's made a couple of interviews about how he taught Bruce Lee how to kick, because again, Bruce Lee came from that Wing Chun tradition. Yes, it sounds like blasphemy to the Church of Jeet Kune Do. I know, but I know, right? But Bruce Lee, he was all about low kicks and stuff, because that is the Wing Chun philosophy, that keep your kicks low, like oblique kicks to the knee, that sort of stuff. Unbalance the guy with trips and things, and focus on hand fighting and striking up high with the hands and the elbows and so on. And Bruce was very dogmatic about this doctrine, if you will, even though he wrote so much about not being dogmatic about martial arts doctrine, if you will. Yeah. And Chuck Norris, according to him, he was like, no, Bruce, you gotta learn how to kick up high. It's good to have that option. I mean, it's great to do all the sweeps and low kicks and stuff, but if the only thing stopping you from winning a fight is kicking a guy in the head, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think the idea, like when you say Bruce Lee, I think most people do think of very flashy techniques, because he's such a phenomenal athlete, and he could, in my mind, he could do all these crazy jumping kicks and whatnot. So as a player in the UFC game, that's what I think people want. They want him to... Yeah,
they want him to be different than he was in real life. Because, again, if you read his philosophy, it was very simple, very streamlined. And then you watch his movies, you can see that philosophy in the choreography. Like, he wasn't doing, 360 spinning kicks. Like, the fanciest kicks he did was like a spinning hook kick.
But you want him to be a character in a movie.
Yeah.
Like more, UFC fighter following their technique and being... strict about it. You don't want that when you pick Bruce Lee. You want a movie style fight.
Why is that? Because even Bruce Lee's movies weren't like that. But I think he's such a larger than life person.
Yeah, especially now. After his death, he's been built up.
He has to be portrayed as larger than life in the game. Like if they stuck with the moveset that he used on film, it would be kind of boring, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Just side kicks and jabs and simple boxing techniques, round kick, hook kick once in a while. That's... It kind of makes us wonder, like, why did we become so enamored with Bruce Lee at the time? And I think it was the contrast with, Hong Kong Kung Fu cinema at the time was just not very real. And then we saw Bruce Lee. It was a lot more grounded in reality. There weren't people flying through the air or doing these crazy psh, 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 psh. Every movement had some goofy sound effect. Everything was a choppy, wacky, crazy, drunken kung fu movement. Mm-hmm. It was punches and kicks, and we could wrap our minds around it. We were like, it's kung fu, but it's comprehensible. It looks real. It looks like something that, would actually be possible in a fight. For the most part.
I'm not actually a big Bruce Lee fan.
And that's okay.
I like the crazier
Unless
stuff.
you ask the people who belong to the Church of Jeet Kune Do, in which case now they hate your guts.
Oh, no.
If you don't love him, you're against him, man.
I've made a powerful enemy today.
It's okay. My enemies are your enemies, too.
I like the crazy stuff. I like the flashy, like, oh, man, this could only happen in a movie kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want real fights, then... watch MMA.
Yeah, I got a question on YouTube recently, just today about this. He said, and he sounded very sincere when asking, why is it that UFC fights seem to be kind of slow and awkward compared to movie fights? I know, right?
Well, where to begin?
Andrew, how would you answer that question?
Well, I would say that movie fights are choreographed. So there.
You don't say.
I know. That's my thought. I don't know. You can agree.
It's
disagree.
not fake.
It's the same thing as wrestling, as WWE, because in real life someone wouldn't have the time to climb up to the top turnbuckle and complete that jump.
Oh, yeah.
While your opponent
Dude would grab his legs and pull him off of there.
Yeah,
and be
while
like, what are you doing, man?
Like, we've seen people get horribly injured, in the UFC with really intense shots, and they don't go down for as long as people do in wrestling, And the same thing with movies, of course. It's very obvious. If you plan a fight to look as good as possible, then you're going to make it exciting and fast and throw in all these crazy moves that ordinarily you wouldn't have the time or energy for.
Yeah, another really common movie trope that doesn't exist in real fights is the idea of the single strike turnaround, if you will. I don't know if that's the right name of the movie trope, but it's this idea somebody's in a really bad position, like they're on the bottom, they're getting beaten up, somebody's mounted them, and then they'll throw a punch from the bottom, or they're super flexible and throw a kick from behind, and then there's this smack sound, and then total reversal.
Yeah, that comes up in wrestling too a lot. There's a lot of changes of momentum, and often it's just from one very small thing.
Yeah, like a little slap or something.
Yeah, a guy's been beating him up forever, then he hits him with one of those backhands across the chest. Oh,
yeah,
totally turns the fight around.
Yeah, man, I was just watching Kirk versus the Gorn from Star Trek The Original Series. I'm doing one of my fantastic fictional fight scene reviews of that right now.
Oh, boy.
And, you know what I'm talking about? The lizard creature?
No, of course not. This came up last time when I was like, I don't know anything about Star Trek.
Did we talk about the Gorn last time?
I don't think.
Oh, man.
Is that one specific thing?
Yeah.
That's one guy? The Gorn?
In the first season of Star Trek, there was an episode called Arena, where Captain Kirk, he's the captain of the Enterprise. For those of you who are not familiar with Star Trek, it's a spaceship that goes through space. They go on adventures in space, right? So this omniscient, powerful alien entity beams Kirk down to this planet and the captain of the Gorn ship down to the planet. And up until this moment, we don't know what the Gorn look like. We just know they're hostile. When Kirk sees the Gorn, it's this man in this rubber lizard suit, basically.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen this fight scene.
Yes, and he moves very slowly, but the Gorn is supposed to be very, very strong and very, hard and durable and just really dense, basically. So even though he's slow, Kirk just can't best him in hand-to-hand combat. And he tries, he even does the double hammer fist with the interlaced fingers to no effect. I know, that always works for Kirk.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to use this, but I'm going to break it. Ow, my fingers.
I know, right? In case anybody doesn't know, do not interlace your fingers in a fight like that. It's a terrible idea. You will break them. Whether you are striking or grappling, just don't do it, right? There are better things you can do, like a single hammer fist.
Yeah,
I know, it might
probably
seem like,
better not to put your hands together in any way for...
Yeah, like
how can you?
What is the striking point with the double interlaced finger hammer fist, or even like that, or any of them? Like,
I can't see any way that doesn't hurt.
You're pretty much just mashing your finger joints against a hard object. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
but
hit him with one hand, or if you're on the street, a nice 12-6 elbow.
Yeah. So in this fight, the Gorn, who's supposed to be super powerful, big enough to lift up a rock that weighs like a ton and throw it 65 feet in the air up a mountainside, and with tremendous velocity too. So the Gorn is clinching with Kirk, supposedly going to try to bite him or eat him or something because he's got these big sharp teeth. If only he could open his mouth, but he can't. But because it's a rubber mask, right? And Kirk cross-faces, which is actually really good. He cross-faces, which is a great way to escape from a tight clinch, for example. And he's pushing, and he's framing, and he's posturing. But then he does the what do we call that? The discombobulate move Sherlock Holmes used in that movie with Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, he boxes the ears, claps the ears. Okay. And then the Gorn, this super powerful alien entity, is just my ears, and let's go. And he doesn't even have ears.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are a lizard's ears?
Well, they have internal ears. There's a membrane on the outside, but I don't think it would have the same effect on a lizard as it would on a human.
But on a Gorn.
On a Gorn.
That is their weak spot.
Apparently, I guess, their genitals are on their ears, like the Ferengi, I guess. For those who are not familiar with Star Trek mythology, the Ferengi are these aliens with really big ears, and the ear is the erogenous zone of the Ferengi.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, just so you know.
Do they cover them up, or they're out there?
No. I do remember on the first episode
Bold.
where the Ferengi appeared. So the Ferengi were these hostile aliens when they first appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation. And they see one of the Starfleet officers who was a woman, and they're like, disgusting! They forced their females to wear clothes! Ah!
Oh.
And the Ferengi are really put off by this.
So they're very sexually liberated.
Super sexually
They
liberated.
just show their ears off to
beings.
anybody.
Exactly. They just flaunt those ears.
Those
Men
ear
and women
sluts.
alike. Ear sluts, yes.
And if you're listening at home, check the time to see how long Ramsey can talk before Star Trek does come up. That time has passed.
Star Trek is going to come up at least 7 more times during this podcast. I guarantee it. Oh, man. There have been a bunch of great Star Trek episodes based around fighting tournaments.
I think I've seen what you talked about sounded really familiar, and I think Futurama did a parody of it. Because there's one where there's this cloud. This
Like a cloud talking alien energy being?
Yeah, sentient
Okay.
cloud that collects people and puts them on puts them on this planet, and wants them to be his toys. And so it kind of sounds like that, where you said one alien.
That's basically the plot of like 17 different episodes of Star Trek, the original series.
All right, so I think they drew from that and parodying
Like
that.
seriously, that's not a hyperbole.
Yeah, because when you said arena, that did sound familiar. But that's kind of we've seen that many times, like one alien putting our hero against another person in a gladiator style.
There was the
combat.
episode Arena. There were the gamesters of Triskelion.
Of course,
where Kirk was forced to fight. There was the one where Spock and Kirk fought on the planet Vulcan, where they had the classic Star Trek fight music. Dun da dun da 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 dun. Oh, I shouldn't have sung that. This video is going to get demonetized for copyrighted music.
The list goes on and on. I mean, don't get me started, because I don't know any of them.
Yeah. Man. Even so, Andrew, Star Trek, it's so great you don't even have to watch Star Trek to appreciate Star Trek, man.
Okay, one of them is on my Netflix list, but it's the one with Patrick Stewart.
Is that the new one, Picard?
I mean, it's not new, but
The newish one? The newest
it's
one.
newer than Captain Kirk, played by Shatner. That's what you're talking about, Shatner.
It came
right?
out a few months back, right?
Oh, no. Sorry, I'm not talking about movies. I'm talking about. I think it's called The Next Generation. Is that the one? With
The Next
Patrick
Generation.
Stewart?
Yeah. That's but Patrick Stewart, he came back and did a new series called Picard, based on the character he played in The Next Generation.
I didn't know
just
that.
as an older man.
Oh man.
You got some catching up to do, man.
Yeah, what happened to my Google News alert about Star Trek? Jeez.
And then they made one called Star Trek Discovery, or STD for short.
Oh yeah.
The fans were not happy about that one.
That. Okay, but what do you think about The Next Generation with Patrick Stewart? Is that good?
It's fantastic, man.
All right,
it's fantastic.
I've been meaning to try it because I watched an honest trailer about it, and it just looked.
Oh, those honest trailers are great, aren't they?
It looked absolutely mad, so I kind of wanted to try it out.
It's awesome. It's awesome because Gene Roddenberry was still doing it. Like, that was within his lifetime. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, the creative force behind the show, you know, like when George Lucas was doing Star Wars, for example. Sorry, Star Trek fans, I'm bringing in a Star Wars analogy, and I know it's a different Star thing, right? But when George Lucas did the first 3 Star Wars movies, it was Star Wars. When he did the prequels, you know, a lot of people were disappointed because they were different, and there was a lot of CGI, and it was kind of weird. But it was still Star Wars because it was George Lucas's vision, and we could still appreciate that. And now that, you know, Disney took over, and they've gone in some very different directions with different directors, people are scratching their heads like, is it still Star Wars? I mean, it's not George Lucas. It's not the same storyteller telling the story anymore. So is it still Star Wars? What do you think?
I don't know that much about it, but it's the same universe, you know, and I think that's half the battle. As long as it's the same people in the same setting, You're getting something out of it.
Yeah.
But that being said,
Except they keep killing off the same people, like the old people in the.
Oh my! Where they come back the next movie? I can't say much though because I'm such a casual fan.
Yeah.
I saw the most recent Star Wars movie and I was like, yeah, it's a fun space-time romp. Whatever it is. They had action sequences. It had all the normal things of an action movie. But I don't feel as powerfully as these real fans do about the little specificities of like, oh, Luke Skywalker in this first movie, you can't do that. Oh, I don't know anything.
Are they real fans or are they just angry people? That's what I want to know.
Oh, just random people?
Yeah.
I don't even like Star Wars, but I'm mad.
There are a lot of those people out there. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are plenty of casual fans that get mistaken as hardcore fans because of how adversely they reacted to the new Star Wars trilogy. Like, I'm furious about this because it's different.
Yeah.
Boo hiss. And people are like, oh, it's a super fan right there. I don't know.
Well, you're certainly a strong fan of one era of Star Wars. Like, I think people just take that one time that they really, really liked it and wanted to continue in that same vein. Whereas I never had that moment where I saw it in the theaters as a child and was just overwhelmed, and now I want it to be like that all the time.
I saw it in the theaters as a child, and I was overwhelmed with nightmares about Yoda chasing me.
Oh, really?
Every single night. Have you ever had recurring dreams?
No.
Man, this was mine every night for years as a child.
Wow.
I'm in this dark black void. And I'm running from something terrible. There's this terror inside of me just eating me up. I'm like, I have to get away. I turn around. Yoda is chasing me. He's making this noise like, and it's just disgusting.
Wait, Yoda or Jabba?
Yoda.
He's
Yoda.
making a
the
weird,
protagonist, the Jedi master guy.
Sound?
Yoda. Yeah, and he's just making these horrible sounds. And he's reaching out with his little green claws, and I'm like, ah! And I'm running in slow motion like, you always do in your dreams when you're a kid trying to run away from something. And there's this ladder leading up into this, I guess, an escape from this black void with Yoda, and I start climbing the ladder. My brother's at the top, and he reaches out his hand, like, hurry, Ramsey, Yoda's coming! And I'm like, help, help! And I'm reaching out, and Yoda starts climbing up the ladder, reaching, and he starts grabbing my foot, and I'm like, ah! And then I wake up in a cold sweat, and yeah, man, that was my childhood. Childhood Star Wars experience.
If I could sum up my childhood in one story. Wow. That is freaky. Have you seen Baby Yoda?
Just memes on the internet.
All right, maybe you should check some of that out. Maybe it would take away the fear if you saw a more innocent.
If you just
Yoda.
picture it as a baby.
Yeah, you're just a baby. You can't hurt me, Baby Yoda.
Oh man, I just recently rewatched The Water Boy with Adam Sandler. You seen that one?
No.
Oh man, it's not a great movie, but I love it because Kathy Bates, who plays Adam Sandler's mom in that movie, reminds me of my mom. Because she's very overprotective. Everything, according to her, is the devil. She won't let him date. Won't let him go out. Won't let him play sports because sports are the devil. Football is the devil. Girls are the devil.
I remember those quotes.
I was like, man, that was my childhood. Well, Yoda and that. Yoda and Kathy Bates for mom.
So were you allowed to watch Star Wars, or was it off limits?
Well, I saw it in a theater when I was like, I don't remember how old. It was Return of the Jedi that came out in theaters. So whenever that came out, I was that old. And I was born in 1978, by the way. So nerds on the internet, do the math. You know when Return of the Jedi came out. I don't, because I'm not that big of a super fan. Like I said, I'm a Star Trek nerd, not a Star Wars geek. So,
I think that overall, a bigger picture look at it that I have is I wish people appreciated things more than they do.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, I have a friend who loves Star Wars, and he does everything. Okay? He watched the movies when we were young, and then it started this whole stream of his life. Like, he reads all the books. If there's a new movie coming out, he's excited about it. He's watching the show. What is it? Mandalorian. Whatever is Star Wars, already he's like excited about it, and I think that's a very good attitude to have, where a lot of people are like, it's slightly different, like my favorite band, AFI, there's there's kind of a watershed moment in their history. There's one album that separates fans. You're either a pre-Sing the Sorrow fan or a post-Sing the Sorrow fan.
Okay.
And I'm post-Sing the Sorrow. I love Sing the Sorrow and everything after that. And some people, like, even on their YouTube videos now, are commenting like, it doesn't sound like it used to. Like, if you like these musicians, just be happy that they're still putting out music. Like, why can't you appreciate that for something? It is something different.
Yeah.
They're 20 years older than they were then. Like, move on with it.
Oh man, what must that be like being a musician so well known for like one part of your career, like 20 years ago, when you get up on stage and you want to play your new music, and everybody's like, play your one-hit wonder from way back when that you probably played so many times you want to pull your hair out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move with the times, or the times move you.
I know, right? But I think musicians in particular fall into that trap. Like,
yeah, play the hits.
Comedians, for example, you're a comedian. Comedians are always coming up with new material. People want new material. They want new jokes. They don't want to hear the same joke over and over again. But
Sure.
songs, people want to experience that feeling all over again and again and again.
Yeah, no one cares if Bruce Springsteen has a new song. They just want to hear more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, man. I used to play in a band back in college, and our bass player, he said, my dream is to write the quintessential pop chorus. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, like, there are all kinds of songs out there. Nobody knows them, but they know the chorus. They can sing the chorus. All the other lyrics, they have no clue. They just kind of hum along with them. But that chorus is what hooks them. That's what makes them remember it. And that song gets played on the radio over and over again, and they get royalties. That's what I want to do. That's how I'm going to get rich. I'm going to write the quintessential pop chorus that gets stuck in people's heads.
If you're in it for the money, that is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
What? Sounds are weird, man. Sounds are weird. I started making my own music for YouTube videos a number of months ago because I had some copyright issues with royalty-free, copyright-free music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Like these people advertise royalty-free, copyright-free music, use the music, just give me credits or whatever, and totally free, no charge, and then they get you, and they're like, haha, just kidding, we're taking all the revenue from your videos now. And I was like, screw that. I'm never using anybody else's music ever again. I'm making my own from now on.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
What do you use to make it?
I use a few iPhone apps, actually. There are some amazing iPhone apps out there, where you can make your own sounds, where you can use sampled beats and things like that. And just construct your own music and put stuff on loops and stuff, and it's super easy.
I started
actually.
Experimenting with BandLab.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's one of the ones you use.
I haven't used that one.
Yeah, it's I'm not very good at it, but it was the same thing. I wanted to make sounds for a video that I was making, and man, I did not want to run into that. First of all, I got to put it in the credits. I was like, I'm doing everything else. Surely I could throw together something, and then just at the end
just
it
have
says
a beat in the background.
It's by me, and not someone else.
It blows people's minds, though. Like I make sure to put like in the video description and also up on the screen original music by Ramsey Dewey. And I'm not doing that to brag. I'm doing that to essentially put in a copyright claim for my own music in case somebody tries to come in later and says, "Aha, that beat's mine." I'll be like, nope. I've got a timestamp right here when I uploaded that. So, but it blows people's minds. They're like, "What? You're doing music now? But that's impossible. Nobody can do two things."
Two things.
Two things. Yes.
Get out.
You do cage fighting. You coach cage fighters, and you make beats on your iPhone. Mind blown.
Those are the only two things that you do.
Apparently.
Wow.
Man, if all you master in life is two things, man.
Being a DJ better not be one of them.
Oh man, my 7-year-old daughter uses the same software that I use on my iPhone, and she makes some pretty amazing beats, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like, this. It's so simple. Literally, a child can and does do it. Like, it is that easy to make music for YouTube videos today.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for copyright claims to happen.
Well, some of the music that I've used, some of the copyright music that I've used has been really simple. I listen to it and think, man, maybe I could probably throw something like that together. Like I do.
How did they even copyright that? That's like a drum or something.
Yeah.
That's like boom, boom, boom. Whoops!
No,
this video just got demonetized again because this is copyrighted.
Really simple, like just sort of a ethereal sound in the background. Like I was looking up creepy music for one video I was doing, and it's just kind of a like, well, I could probably hold down that button for a while and be my original song. Also, I'm doing I read kids books on YouTube, so sometimes I put just some light happy music in the background, and some of it's very simple. I'd like to be able to try to figure that out, get some of that going for myself.
Yeah. Have you ever run into copyright claims reading kids books?
Not yet, but I only have like 10 videos up.
Yeah. That's something a lot of people tell me. You should read storybooks on YouTube, and I've got this huge collection of kids books because I've got kids.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe I should make a channel where I do that or something like that. But at the same time, you never know. You never know.
So far, so good. I haven't. There's a lot of channels that are doing it.
Yeah.
And some of them have a lot of hits. Like some of the popular books have, hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah.
And it seems to be okay. I could get you on as a guest reader for my channel because the name is Dewey Reads Books, so it would still make sense.
And I'm a Dewey.
It's perfect.
Yeah. If anybody's not aware, Andrew also goes by Dewey. I call him Andrew because that's how he introduced himself to me to avoid confusion, since my last name is Dewey. But to everyone else, he's Dewey.
What a collaboration.
Confusing. Dewey and Dewey. Whoa. It's the Dewey Podcast.
This collaboration.
But yeah, we could do that. Definitely. Man, reminds me, I got to finish reading Jack Dempsey's book on my YouTube channel. Everybody keeps demanding that. That one is public domain now.
Oh yeah, because it's been so long.
Yeah, it was before Disney had that whole lawsuit to change copyright law in America forever. Because before Mickey Mouse, after the death of Walt Disney, was going to become public domain, and a lot of other like mainstream characters, like most comic book characters as well, were going to become public domain. So Batman would have been public domain. All DC, all Marvel characters would have been public domain.
Wow.
But Disney, they were like, we can't lose the mouse. We can't lose our, that's ours. That's how we make money. So they sent their most high-powered lawyers to court, changed the law so that they could retain copyrights, even though the creator of the material was dead.
Well, that kind of makes sense because they're still using it.
Yeah.
My question is, like, my copy of Jack Dempsey's book is not, I don't know how old, like what year that first came out, but mine was printed in like the 90s.
Yeah.
So what about that? If they're still printing the book and coming out,
domain?
Coming out with new publications, like
it
remains public domain though, right?
I think
Even if
any publisher has the right to publish any public domain thing. So any like Sherlock Holmes novels, that's all public domain.
Oh,
so
right.
Anybody can make a Sherlock Holmes movie. In fact, I think they're making a new one with Henry Cavill. I heard about that. They're never going to stop making Sherlock Holmes movies.
No wonder they made that terrible Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly vehicle.
Yeah, because it's free.
Right.
It's free. Like Batman, you got to pay for that. You got to pay a lot for that. But Sherlock Holmes is he's basically Batman before Batman was there. Batman without a costume.
I guess. Yeah, Batman on a budget.
I mean, he was, yeah.
No gadgets.
No gadgets. Just the power of his mind. But Sherlock was also, a lot of people don't know this, he was also a martial artist, trained in Bartitsu.
What?
Have you heard of Bartitsu?
Bartitsu?
It was this old-timey, like Victorian-era version of jiu-jitsu developed by this guy named Bart, who named it after himself. It's kind of like Rex Kwon Do from Napoleon Dynamite. You seen that movie?
Yeah.
We have so many pop culture references in this podcast.
I thought Bartitsu was like jiu-jitsu for a bar setting or something.
No, Bartitsu, named
Bart.
after a dude named Bart.
Bartitsu.
He was like, okay, I guess he went to Japan, learned some jiu-jitsu, learned some boxing, some cane fighting, some stick fighting, and decided I'm gonna mix these styles together, take the best of all, the worst of none, and make my own martial art. And he was going to teach
For the British gentleman.
For the British gentleman, exactly. So they trained in suits. They carried canes. The cane was part of the self-defense style.
Right, yeah.
And he was like, what am I going to call this? Well, my name is Bart. It's largely based on jiu-jitsu, so I'll call it Bartitsu.
Wow. Lesson 3, utilizing the handkerchief.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. In fact, if you watch Sherlock Holmes, the one with Robert Downey Jr., he does that. He utilizes a handkerchief. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen both of them.
Yeah, so he's like in that pit fight with that guy for some
that's
random
the first
reason.
one, I think.
Just to show that he can fight. And
Right.
he takes a handkerchief, he throws it up in the air to distract him, and then punches him with like a 15-punch combination.
While he's still looking at that handkerchief.
While he's analyzing the data.
It's so beautiful.
But yeah, Sherlock Holmes, he was, in the books, he was kind of a badass. Like, he was an
Yeah.
expert in Bartitsu. He had, like, peak-level human strength. Like in the, what was it, the novel, I always get this one confused, like the case or the adventure of the collared band or something like that. Somebody correct me in the comments. I talked about this last time and I got it wrong. But this guy comes in, bends a fireplace poker in half, just to show, like, he's mad at Sherlock. He comes into his home, grabs the brass poker, bends it in half, this metal rod, and throws it on the ground. He's like, I am not to be trifled with. And then he storms out. And then Sherlock picks up the metal bar, bends it back into place, and says, if he'd stuck around, I would have shown him a thing or two.
Ooh.
Because even though he's not as big as the large man who bent the bar in half, Sherlock has trained his body to peak level strength. Just like Batman.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if I'm willing to agree just yet that they're...
That Sherlock is Batman?
Yeah.
You know, I was just watching, I watched part of one of DC's animated films. They made some amazing animated superhero films at the same time as they were making those really crappy live-action superhero films.
Yeah, they've got some good Batman ones.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's like Victorian-era Batman.
What?
And yeah, so Batman basically is Sherlock Holmes, and he's like tracking down Jack the Ripper in this one.
Oh, that's cool. Because that was one thing I was going to say is Batman has the technology. Sherlock just had his wits. Like, he wasn't looking up all these things. Batman, his detective work is largely like let's be honest, it's a lot of surveillance. It's a lot of illegal surveillance that he uses. Sherlock didn't have any of that stuff unless he was like waiting in the cafe across the street.
Yeah. Therefore, what Andrew is saying is Sherlock is better than Batman. He's free.
Did I say it?
That's exactly what you said.
Oh,
I think
man.
you also said Sherlock is better than Bruce Lee while you were at it, just to offend the Bruce Lee nerds.
You've done some crazy barjitsu with words here.
Bartitsu is better than Jeet Kune Do.
Bartitsu. I can't say it.
You know, actually, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he spelled it wrong in the book. He called it like Baritsu instead of Bartitsu because he'd heard of it, but he misremembered. You couldn't Google it back then.
It's in the book.
Yeah, it's written as Baritsu in the book, although the style itself was called Bartitsu. So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he didn't study martial arts, but he wanted his character to be proficient in martial arts. So he's like, man, what does the English gentleman study? Aha! Bartitsu, but he misspelled it.
Well, that's great research, though, because it would be really weird if Sherlock was like some crazy karate expert and no one was doing karate in England back then. He's like, I've trained in the Orient. Back then, it was okay to call it the Orient.
Yeah, Bart trained in the Orient. I don't remember Bart's last name, but he trained in the Orient.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Martial arts for the British gentleman.
It is funny how the word Orient or Oriental in English has become offensive. Like, you cannot call Asian people Oriental.
Well, it's okay for
anymore.
Items.
Yeah, like it's an Oriental rug. Exactly. A Ming vase from the Orient.
But not an Oriental rug maker.
Yeah. But one thing I noticed right away
if you're talking
when
about
I came
a
to
maker
China,
of Oriental rugs. Sorry, continue.
Have you heard of Oriental Land?
What?
Oriental Land here in China. Yes, it's like Disneyland, but Oriental Land.
No.
It's a real place here in China.
Wow.
And it is one of the craziest theme parks in China. There are some crazy ones. Like there's Dinosaur Land, which is pretty awesome. It's like Disneyland with dinosaurs instead of Mickey Mouse. There is Hello Kitty Land, which, it's Hello Kitty Land instead of Disneyland, basically.
Nice. Yeah, I've been meaning to go there.
There's Oriental Land, and you may wonder, what is in Oriental Land? Is it a bunch of Oriental people? Well,
Not
yes.
people, I hope.
But it's a crazy military obstacle course.
What?
Open to the public, basically. Yeah.
That makes no sense. Why is it
It
called
makes
that?
zero sense.
Opened in 1933, Oriental Land.
Yeah, man. It is the wildest, craziest military-style
Have you
obstacle
been?
course. I have not, but my friend Carl, he went, showed me some videos. I was like, this is not a real place. He's like, it's a real place. You have to go.
Is it just sort of free, not free to get in, but you go in and you're just like allowed to move around?
Yeah, you can go to whatever obstacle course you want. And
just run through an obstacle course and then
and
have
it's
a corn
super
dog.
popular. Have you been to Shanghai Disneyland?
Thankfully, no.
Okay. Shanghai Disneyland, it's a lot like, Disneyland in the U.S., similar attractions, rides, and so on. But then there's one thing that really stands out. There's this crazy obstacle course there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've never heard
It's
that.
not nearly as extreme as Oriental Land, but it is an obstacle course up on like a fake mountainside. And they chain you in with this harness in case you fall off of the cliff.
Wow.
There's like this waterfall where you're like, you could fall off.
Why has no one mentioned this before?
It's the craziest thing in Disneyland. Like, I couldn't even believe it was there because there's an actual element of risk. You're not on rails. You are attached to this railing overhead. I mean, I just said you're not on rails. Like, it doesn't take... You go at your own pace. You go where you want. You choose your own adventure, basically.
Yeah.
But you have a safety tether in case you fall off. And then some people will come with hooks and pull you back as you're dangling over a chasm.
Wow.
So-
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and there are all these rope bridges and like just some pretty wild obstacles, which I don't think you could get away with this in the United States.
Yeah,
There would just be too many lawsuits.
It feels really out of place
Somebody would slip
at Disney.
and twist their ankle or something, even if they're tethered in and they're not going to die. But somebody would slip, get hurt, sue Disneyland, make so much money. But in China, this exists.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that here where... there's something I've noticed where there's not a lot of like velvet ropes keeping you back from places.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more places where it's like, oof, that looks so sketchy. I hope that's anchored well. There's those places where it's
right?
You're attached to the side of a mountain looking over a cliff, and like China's infatuation with glass bridges, and glass walkways.
Yes.
Oh my word, they're everywhere.
If you go up to the Jinmao Tower, the second tallest building in Shanghai, it's big. It's big, man.
Yeah.
You go up to almost the top floor, and there's this glass walkway, a glass floor. I went there with my kids, and my older daughter was just like huddling up next to the corner, like, I don't want to walk there. I'm gonna fall through, because you see the city below you,
Yeah.
like a mile below you, and. Oh, it's kind of trippy.
Mm-hmm.
But people
Pearl Tower
love that
has it as
stuff.
well.
Yes. They love that stuff.
Yeah. But so this course at Disney, it doesn't hold a candle to Oriental Land, right?
No, it's like Oriental Land for kids, basically. But
I wonder if I have a few friends who have gone.
Oriental Land is hardcore, man.
I have a few friends who have gone to Shanghai Disney. No one has mentioned this. I wonder if they've done it or even been aware of it.
Yeah, it's
like,
a little bit out of the way.
Are kids going on it?
When I went to Disneyland, I saw very few children. Very few. It's mostly
What?
adults.
Oh my word.
Yeah, mostly adults trying to relive the childhood they never had, and it's funny. It's funny to see like these grown-ups going on these rides. They're going on the equivalent to the teacups. What is it? It's a Winnie the Pooh ride, basically. And just hundreds, thousands of grown men and women waiting in line to go on these kids rides, and no children or very few children.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
I've been to Disney World a couple times, and the second time I went, I think I was 20.
Yeah.
And I went there, and I said to I was there with some younger cousins, so they were having a great time. But I remember looking around and being like, there is nothing for me here. I'm done with this. I like the frozen bananas. That was it. If I go to a park, I want there to be legit rides. Like, I want there to be exciting rides. That's why I would go. But just to go and like, oh, it's so Disney, like, that's not enough for me anymore.
The lines, man. The lines at theme parks are ridiculous. It's why I would recommend Dinosaur Land, anyone in China, because...
Where's that?
It's in Hangzhou, I think. I've been there a few times. Hangzhou, I believe. Dinosaur Land is cool because it's got very similar rides to Disneyland, just dinosaur themed. It's got some crazy off-the-wall attractions you would never ever see in Disneyland. Like they have this stunt show. It's the craziest stunt show. Let me just describe this for you. Okay, so there's like this secret agent government guy out there. They're putting on like a play. Maybe it's a morality play. I don't know, because it's all in Chinese, and my spoken Chinese is not that great. But there's this government agent guy, and he's looking for something. Then a T-Rex comes out, because it's Dinosaur Land, of course. They have some kind of fight. There are explosions. This is live. It's a live stunt show, by the way. Then some aliens come down. The government commando guy starts fighting with the aliens. The dinosaur is involved somehow. There are more explosions. There are stunts. There's kung fu. So we have dinosaurs, aliens, kung fu, guns, explosions. It makes zero sense, but it's awesome.
And no dolphins were harmed in the making of it.
Exactly. No dolphins. Shockingly.
Wow.
Shockingly.
That sounds amazing.
Man, and the lines are very short.
Yeah, I bet. Because these off-brand, I hate to say it, these non-Disney parks.
Let's just say it. It's off-brand Disneyland, man.
They're really getting eclipsed by Disneyland. There's another one opening. I think Universal is opening one in China. Like, people are really flocking to those places, and these kind of older parks that are sort of just chosen at random, it seems like. They're like, people like dinosaurs, let's make one. I found that in Korea as well. When I was in South Korea, there's a lot of parks. It's like, hey, what are you into? Turtles? All right, come on down to Turtle Land. Like, they've got a land for that, whatever your interests are.
Indeed. There are so many theme parks. A bunch of these theme parks were actually literally rip-off Disneylands, and they got sued. But they ran for a long time. Now, some of them closed, and they're like creepy abandoned amusement parks.
Oh, those are cool.
Yeah, so there are some YouTubers here in China who like go to these places, sneak into these creepy abandoned amusement parks, make videos, do parkour around the place, and
nice.
It's quite interesting. So you can see some of those. One of them is still open, one of these discount Disneylands, but they had to change some of the characters. Because they had like one that looked like Mickey Mouse, one that looked like Donald Duck, so they got rid of a few, replaced them with like a rabbit or something like that.
Oh, I thought maybe they did some creepy DIY, like, it's Mickey Mouse with a bunch of tape on his head. Like, ooh.
It's not far off, man.
I don't
they
want
like plastered rabbit ears on the
Mickey.
But
Jeez.
it's...
Okay, Timmy, pose for a picture.
Pose for a picture with Ling Ling the bunny. I don't know what his name is.
Zombie bunny.
But these are some of the creepiest places, man. There's something about a amusement park that is abandoned that just makes it extra creepy.
Yeah.
Like, if you walked around Shanghai during Chinese New Year when the viral outbreak first came out, nobody's on the street, but to an extra degree because it's Chinese New Year and the virus altogether. It's kind of creepy, but not really. But you go to an amusement park and you see like a clown face with the paint peeling off, and there's just that ominous silence, especially if there's mist or fog or something like that. Oh man, it's just a whole nother level of creepy.
Yeah. Now imagine if the music started up suddenly.
Oh yes.
Next thing you know, Yoda's chasing you.
Yeah. Oh, you had to go there again. Childhood memories drudged up again.
Oh, a whole new nightmare begins.
Oh man, we were going to talk about what's his name, Anthony Smith. I talked about this on another podcast, and I said Anthony Johnson. I mixed up the two, Rumble Johnson with Anthony Smith. Unfortunately,
Anthony Lionheart Smith.
Yeah, so let's get it straight. It was Anthony Lionheart Smith. So he had his house broken into by some drugged out crazy guy. I saw some surveillance footage of the guy outside another house, and he was just screaming like a psychopath just out there. He's trying to break in the door. He can't get in, and so he just screams his head off for like a minute.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. And I remember in the account, one of the accounts Anthony gave, he said when he came in the house, he started screaming, like he announced himself with a scream. And when you hear how he did it, it's chilling. Like he's not a big, imposing or scary looking guy. He looks like a normal guy, but just like screaming like he's possessed with demons or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't Anthony Smith woken up by his wife, who told him that someone was in the house?
Yeah, I believe so.
So he had come in, I guess, a loud fashion.
Yeah.
Enough that it woke up his wife. And so was that him coming in and immediately screaming, or was he coming in and like looking through stuff, making a ruckus?
I don't know. I don't know if he was screaming. To anyone hearing this story, if you haven't watched it already, go watch one of these interviews with Anthony Smith. He's done a few. I think the one he did with Ariel Helwani is the longest, most in-depth one, and it gives you a lot to think about. You know, anybody who talks about self-defense on the internet needs to watch that interview. So, and a lot of people took it out of context, I think. There were a bunch of articles titled something like UFC fighter claims he had the toughest fight of his life against an untrained fighter or something like that.
As if that is the headline
that's
come out of this story.
I know, right? I know, but they're spinning this in this direction to basically say MMA doesn't work. It's not worth training because you're going to have a hard time anyway.
Yeah. What
and so
website
instead,
was that? Boxing.com?
A bunch of them, man. A bunch of them. Yeah, UFChaters.com, MMAsucks.com, something like that. But you listen to what Anthony actually says, and you know he's not talking himself up at all. He expresses this with the most humility that you possibly can.
Yeah, very humble guy.
He does describe it as the hardest fight of his life. Like he was not expecting this level of resistance, this level of strength, this level of power from a significantly smaller person. But what actually happened, he took him down, sat on him, and punched and elbowed him for a few minutes. Just dropped strikes on him, you know, trying to make him go away, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And this went on for some time. But it's an interesting dichotomy because, again, Anthony is trying to control this guy, and this other guy is trying to inflict violence.
Yeah.
And those are two very separate, disparate goals. You ever had the experience of rolling with a brand new white belt in a jiu-jitsu class?
Sure.
You know how wild they can be?
Yeah.
They're either really passive and they're like, I don't know what to do, or they go nuts.
Yeah. Put all their energy into the wrong places.
Yes, and they try to scratch out your eyes. And
yeah,
it's a great exercise in learning how to control a wild human. So if you want to train for the streets, if you will, grapple, yes, for this, we're going there, for the streets, man. Grapple with new white belts. Grapple with a bunch of them. And especially the guys who want to scratch your eyes out, the guys who don't trim their nails, the guys who just go crazy and try to bite you and kick you in the groin and punch you and elbow you and whatever. You know, all that stuff shouldn't happen in jiu-jitsu. It's all grappling, but, you know, instinctively, wild humans bring that stuff out anyway.
Yeah, and you're a lot more likely, I found, to catch an elbow or catch a knee, one of these wild movements. Like that's definitely happened to me.
Yeah.
I was rolling with a really new guy, and I got like split above my eye because he...
That's happened to me so many times.
Yeah,
wild headbutts from wild white belts, man.
Yeah.
Man, all the cuts over the eyes, all the headbutts, that was from rolling with the new guys.
But yeah, that level of fear that anyone would have had, like being woken up in the middle of the night. And something he made a very interesting point, which makes a lot of sense, that anyone who breaks into a house with people in it and is not like, you know, and is making themselves known.
Yeah, they're not there to rob the place and get out.
Yeah, they're not afraid. They're there to hurt somebody. So, of course, he thought that this guy had some kind of weapon or something. Like, his body just must have had so much adrenaline going through it, so much fear. Plus, he's got the added weight on him that his wife and kids are there. He's been tasked to protect them.
He's been woken up in the middle of the night. You know, you don't get a warm-up. You don't get any of that.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. You're not expecting a fight.
He wears glasses, too. He's probably wearing his glasses.
Yeah.
Probably just putting, all bleary-eyed, trying to get his glasses
trying to do damage
on.
control as well, trying to keep his
word.
kid safe, trying to keep his wife out of danger's way. His wife jumped on the guy's legs trying to hold them.
Oh, really?
And then the assailant kicks his wife.
Oh, my word. He's worried about his wife being hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's a strange part of the interview, but he says, he told Ariel Helwani, I told the guy, hey, don't kick my wife. And for a moment, there was a mutual understanding. The guy nodded, okay.
What?
And then they kept fighting.
Oh, my
And the wife
word.
is holding on to the legs, trying to stop him. And it's this upper body battle.
This guy did have some sort of code of honor.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Wow.
Everybody says there's no rules in a street fight or whatever. There's no rules in a self-defense situation. And yeah, but
That's my wife.
But we have this ingrained set of rules. Even the psychopaths have ingrained sets of rules.
Well, has there been information to come out after the fact? Do we know if he was hopped up on something?
Yes. So Anthony Smith, he didn't know if the guy was on drugs, but afterward it was confirmed he was on a number of different things.
Okay.
And, man, if you've ever been in a violent altercation with somebody just high out of their mind on methamphetamines or cocaine or some hyperstimulant like that, it's these people are hard to kill, man.
Yeah, superhuman.
There was a police officer, he came to my high school sociology class to give a series of lectures, and it was one of the most fascinating things that I experienced in high school, because he just got really raw and really honest about what happened in his line of work. And he said, if you are ever attacked by somebody on drugs, aim for the head.
Wow.
Aim for the head as far as a gun, right? If you don't have a gun, do your best to break their legs, because hitting them in the head won't do anything.
Wow. And this was in high school?
This is in high school. This police officer is giving us survival advice for the streets. Break the legs, because punching them in the head will not stop them from coming forward. Basically, find some way to immobilize them.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
It's I always carry a small hammer with me, just in case. Pop! Take out a kneecap.
Yeah, but it's
crazy.
It's crazy how a lot of people in the I don't want to say the traditional martial arts community, because there are so many fantastic people in that community. It's the MMA naysayers, the MMA poo-pooers community that I want to address. So many people in that community who have taken this altercation as evidence that MMA sucks, basically, and that their Wing, Krav Maga, Jitsu, whatever it is, style that they do is superior in every way, even though they never ever spar or face any level of resistance, because they train for the streets. But if you listen to Anthony's interview, he says the alternative, he says, I'm glad he chose my house instead of somebody else's, because out of all of the people on the block, I mean, what are the chances he would have broken into the house of a UFC light heavyweight top contender? I mean, he was better prepared to handle that situation in the middle of the night under those circumstances than anybody else. And he did. I mean, he controlled the guy, pinned him,
Absolutely. He didn't even break his arm or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's Ariel Helwani asked Anthony a question, and Anthony didn't give a clear answer because they segued to something else. He said, "Did you try to choke him unconscious?" And they got distracted with another line of thought, and didn't answer the question. But that moment reminded me of a fight I had where I was fighting this Sunda fighter in China, and I got mount position. And I'm throwing strikes, and he doesn't know how to grapple on the ground, doesn't know how to handle himself on the ground at all. But he's not sticking out an arm, he's not, exposing his neck. And I'm thinking, okay, if I go for a submission, there's a high chance I'm going to lose control, because this guy is strong, he's going crazy, he's like, one of those wild white belts on the bottom who bucks and squirms and throws wild elbows and headbutts and scratches and claws. It's just what people do when they're pinned in that position. They fight for their lives to get out. And I thought, I'm not going to go for a submission, even though that would end the fight right now, because I might lose control, he might get on top. something like that. So I decided to just stay on top and strike till the end of the round, which turned out to be they still gave the guy the fight, but but man, I get it, though. I get it why he didn't try to choke him, why he didn't try to do an armbar or something like that, because he had the dominant position. He was in mount. And moving to a different position, especially if the guy had a knife in his pocket or something like that, that he was not able to access from that mounted pin position, man, that would have turned the tide completely. What if he had tried to choke, and then the guy was able to get to his pocket and then pull out a knife and then stab him in his guts or something?
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know under those circumstances.
Yeah, if what he's doing was working, it was smart to stay with it. And there's something that you said about the level of violence that I find is really true, because like you were saying, like he wanted to hurt Smith, he was coming after him, and that's a big difference between what we see in those self-defense videos, where even if someone does have a weapon, it's a very calculated move, where it's like, I'm stabbing you.
Yeah.
Oh, you blocked me. That was, I failed that attempt. I'm going to attempt another stab. You know, and it's all very like regulated almost.
I know, right? We tell ourselves a story about what we're going to do, and then there's the reality of what we're actually able to do.
Yeah, but those videos that you do about sort of counteracting common self-defense techniques,
and with mild resistance,
right? When you apply it with real resistance, or with someone that actually has a knife, and say, "Oh, okay, try to stab me," then it's totally different. You can't
die,
when someone's
exactly.
No one's blocking all of that. Which Anthony Smith was in that situation. You know, if this guy was trying to hurt him, it would not be, oh no, I tried to stab you and you used Krav Maga on me. Let's move on to something else now. Like, no, he's coming after him.
You know, people always laugh at, Jordan Chow's portrayal of the knife-wielding maniac, where he's doing like
that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
The sewing machine style of knife slashing, but that is realistic. That is realistic. Nobody comes at you like Norman Bates from Psycho. I mean, they are trying to poke as many holes in you as possible. If you look at police reports from stab wounds, how many times you heard the victim received no less than 50 stab wounds, 100 stab wounds, 200 stab wounds?
Yeah, it's unthinkable.
That's the norm, not the exception. Interesting thing about knives, though. Anthony Smith, his mother-in-law was there in the house, and she brings a knife.
Yeah.
She's like, here's the knife.
Out of here.
And he grabs it, and he has this, he didn't say it, but he wasn't able to use the knife. And he's like, I can't control this guy while holding the knife. So he tossed the knife across the room. What he didn't say was everybody thinks that in that situation, they'll just pull out their gun and shoot the bad guy or something.
Yeah.
Like, everybody on the internet who owns a gun in the U.S., they're like, yeah, if somebody comes in my property, I'll blow their heads off or whatever.
Right.
And then the reality of killing somebody or stabbing someone or shooting somebody comes, more often than not, people freeze.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at wartime statistics, Dave Grossman wrote an excellent book on this, on killing. More often than not, historically, soldiers would shoot over the head or pretend to fire, even when their lives and the lives of others were threatened.
Or not shoot at all.
Yeah, because that's the common human reaction, to freeze, to not want to kill somebody, to not want to hurt somebody, even under that kind of duress.
Yeah, well, when you tell that, though, it makes it seem like things happened a little bit slower than I thought, where he was able to take a knife, throw a knife away, all while controlling this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like he had it very well in hand.
Yeah, like if you listen to the physical actions Anthony describes, like at no point is Anthony in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he thinks this guy probably has a knife or a gun because he's a psychopath coming in to hurt my family. So psychologically, it's a super difficult battle. But physically, he's in the dominant position throughout the fight. But again, man, surprise fights.
And there's no judge's scorecard for being on the top.
Exactly. Ooh.
But speaking of this, shifting topics a little bit, I wanted to talk to you about Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
And I don't mean actual killing people.
You mean that sweet 90s video game?
Yes.
A Mortal Kombat ripoff?
I don't mean actually killing someone with a knife, but
Yeah.
Killer Instinct, as it applies within, the confines of MMA.
Okay, yeah.
And whether hard sparring, whether that contributes to Killer Instinct or not.
A lot of people think it does. Like back when I started, that was the conventional wisdom. You should train like you want to fight. And so all we did was hard sparring, and we beat each other up, and we gave each other PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really counterproductive. There are a few people who benefit from hard sparring, like professional boxers, the high-level professional boxers who can afford it. They will bring in basically live punching bags to spar with them, and they will pay them per round or something like that. Like Mike Tyson used to pay people $1,000 back in like 1980, early 1980s money, which is, it's a decent paycheck for each round, except he would bring them in to beat them up so he could ingrain it in his muscle memory, beating people up, throwing those punches without having to worry about taking significant damage.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't develop that PTSD. He would just develop the muscle memory of beating people up. And that is a really expensive, high-risk way to train. Like if you have the money, I believe Floyd Mayweather has done this as well. A lot of the high-level boxers do this. I was speaking online with the Punch Professor. Shout out to the Punch Professor. He left this great comment. He tells all these great stories about all these boxers back in the day and how they trained. And people would bring in boxers to spar with Muhammad Ali. They would give the sparring partners these big giant gloves and Muhammad Ali smaller gloves, and just pay them to basically be punching bags. And yeah, man, it was a really common thing. So I can see how that can develop the killer instinct, because you don't get the PTSD, you don't have the fear, you don't develop the fear that way. You bring in these guys you can beat up. And that's kind of terrible. Like, it's terrible if you think about the moral ramifications of this. But the way combat sports are going right now, at least MMA, which Robbie Lawler, I can't speak highly enough of him for pioneering this line of thought, the idea of light technical sparring. You don't need to get into fights at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's had one of the longest running careers in the UFC for a very good reason, because he doesn't get into fights in the gym. He focuses on light technical sparring. In fact, the way he put it, he says, I don't even spar anymore. I mean, he does. It's like, what we do at the gym. It's light and technical. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's getting traumatized. Nobody's getting beaten up or cut.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the big gloves and all that. But a lot of people are having a hard time getting on this bandwagon, because they think exactly what you asked. They're wondering, if I don't do the regular hard sparring, am I going to lose my killer instinct? Am I going to lose my edge? And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. One thing that really helped me to develop the ability to pull the trigger, because that's something I lacked when I started out. And I would attribute it largely to the hard sparring. That's why I had trouble pulling the trigger, because I felt like if I make a false move, I'm going to pay for it dearly.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, if I move wrong, I'm going to pay for it. And that caused me to freeze a lot. That caused me to second guess everything. And I was like, I can't afford to make any mistakes. And so I made every mistake because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this boxing coach, and he pulls me aside. He sees me training a little bit, and he's like, we're going to do this differently. He gets a sparring partner close to my skill level and experience. And he's like, all right, you guys are going to shadow spar. I'm like, we're going to what now? Throw punches at each other, but don't connect. I'm like, well, that sounds like a wimpy little drill, but I'll do it, okay? So I get in there, and I feel like, man, what is this? Like, point karate? Not even that, like, not even light contact, no contact.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like this is the wimpiest thing ever. But we spend about a month just sparring like that, no contact at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so the genius of this was he was reprogramming me, because he saw like I was suffering from PTSD from the ring, from these hard sparring matches. He saw like I'm flinching in all the wrong ways.
Right.
And so he's reprogramming me, getting me used to stepping in the ring and not being afraid to make a mistake, not being afraid to get hit. And then gradually he introduced me to progressive sparring. All right, now you're just going to throw really light jabs, just barely touch each other with that jab, like half speed even. And so we're just pawing at each other with the jab. And then we figure out all these different ways to use the jab. Then we start getting really technical with the jab. And we do this for like a month, just the jab. And, gradually we introduce the other punches, but we keep it at this really sustainable level so we can spar for like an hour a day, easy, without getting damaged or anything like that. And I was like, wow, this is fun. And I start looking forward to sparring. I'm starting to look forward to getting in the ring. And so when fight time came, I was looking forward to stepping in the ring. I was like, this is going to be okay. This is going to be all right. There wasn't that fear. There wasn't that sense of dread, like my stomach tying up into knots like it was before. And I get in the ring, I fight 3 rounds. I feel pretty good about it. And, it was one of my better fights at that point in my life. It was a kickboxing match. But I had a boxing coach train me for it, which was so interesting because so many boxing coaches are the polar opposite of that.
Right.
In fact, I would say most of the boxing coaches I've worked with and known over the years, they just put you in the ring to fight in the gym and call it sparring and call it good. And then, the craziest psychos rise to the top and and everybody else just dies along the way. And yeah, man, if a lot of people train at that type of gym, and those gyms, they do produce good fighters. But I don't think they produce the volume of good fighters that they could. They produce 1 or 2. They don't produce 20 or 30 or 50, or everybody with that viable skill set.
Okay, but this kind of sounds like you're talking more about not being afraid to throw punches and not being afraid of getting hit back.
Yeah.
And I think like Robbie Lawler, of course, is a great example of this because in the ring he is very reckless and he has very exciting fight style. If you never would guess that he's not in the gym practicing being crazy like that. But what about that being comfortable smacking somebody in the face with all your might? Because that's what I'm wondering about. And I think of some very violent examples, of course, that are, over the top, like when Rampage Jackson knocked out Vanderlei Silva, and then Vanderlei is just lying there unconscious and Rampage is still punching him. Of course he hates the guy, it's driven by a lot of personal feelings, but still, just to like punch someone's face like that, and then I compare that to myself, how I feel, and like I don't think I've ever had that in me where I could just unload on someone's
a weird
nose
feeling
like that.
I remember the first time I connected an elbow on somebody's face. So it was a fight back in the U.S. and I had my opponent pinned up against the cage, and I hear my cornerman. He's pummeling for an underhook, and my cornerman says, "Elbow now," because that's an excellent counter for somebody pummeling for the underhook.
Right.
And for a split second, there was a bit of a moral dilemma, like, oh, but that's me.
Really?
And I was like, but he's going to get that underhook, and then he'll do something bad to me. So, boom, I hit him right in the face with that elbow. And then the look he gave me, it was the weirdest look. It was a look like I had just hurt his feelings on a very deep level. Like, not hatred, but it was somewhere between, like, almost like, how could you betray me? Like, you've betrayed my trust by doing that. The face is a sacred place, and you've just violated my sacred place, basically. Like, that type of look.
Did it impact you at all to get that look?
It did, but then I dropped another elbow on him, and then another. And, I remember you don't really have time to process these feelings in the cage, in a cage fight.
Of course, yeah.
But I remember that look, and afterwards it kind of stuck with me. I was like, I did something really mean to a human being, to one of my fellow men. I just like bashed his face in with the hardest, pointiest parts of my elbows repeatedly.
Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy because outside of the ring, I know you, and I know you would never do that to someone. So that's what I'm wondering about turning that switch when you get into the cage or ring or whatever, and just turning on that ability to elbow someone in the face.
It's a strange thing. I think I think you need to get beaten up a few times. Like, you need to have the PTSD experience, then you need to get over it, basically. Because what that PTSD experience, getting beaten up, getting roughed up a bit, teaches you is this is what happens if you don't fight back.
Right.
So it's difficult for most people, because most people, we grow up in a civilization. We are civilized. We are rewarded for doing the right thing. We are rewarded for not dropping elbows on our neighbors' faces. We are rewarded for being nice guys. And in a cage fight, it's the opposite. You are rewarded for being violent. You are rewarded for acting like a psychopath, basically.
Yeah. Well, things that you would never even legally be allowed to do outside.
Exactly. If you choke somebody, say in the state of Utah, for example, that's a felony. You go to prison for that. That's attempted murder. Yeah, strangulation. Some states are like that. Some have different self-defense laws. If you punch somebody in the face, that's assault and battery,
Yeah.
Anything like that. Just laying a hand on somebody. If you grab somebody's wrist, like, hey, wait up, I'm not done talking to you yet. That's assault in the United States, in almost every state. Even if you do not physically harm that person. But again, in a cage fight, the rule is not survive. The rule is be the danger. Be the danger in the cage. Not get away from the danger, be the danger. Which is such a alarming thing for civilized people to do. Because again, that's the realm of psychopaths, basically. That's what psychopaths are comfortable with.
Right.
Because they have no feelings, no empathy for others. So we put the empathy aside for a bit, and you can rationalize it a lot of different ways. Like, you tell yourself, all right, this is different now. This is a cage fight. We have agreed to this. This is a consensual agreement. He wants this. This guy wants me to drop this elbow in his face, even though he gave me that dirty look.
Yeah.
Right? You have to create narratives. Like, this is what worked for me anyway. I had this coach, a guy I fought, actually. He knocked me out my first Muay Thai fight ever. Jeff Moody. And afterwards, he said, I want to coach you. I want to see you win a fight. And so, he coached me.
Not against
psychologically.
Me, but someone else.
Yes, I want to see you win a fight against someone else. Yes, exactly. But he coached me psychologically more than technically. Because what I was lacking wasn't technique. I knew all the kicks and punches and whatnot. It was the ability to pull the trigger. And what he coached me to do was basically create a narrative where it is not just okay, not just acceptable, but imperative that you hurt that other person. Wow. That you go to this dark place in your mind. And the first time I did it, my opponent goes in the cage first, and he's kind of hopping up and down. And Jeff, he looks at me and he says, you see that? He's dancing. He thinks this is a game. He is disrespecting you. And he's just, hopping up and down like any fighter would, going in there, getting warm, staying warm. And I'm like, well, no, he's not. He's like, yes, he is. He is disrespecting you. See that little dance he's doing up there? He thinks he owns that cage. He thinks he's just going to do whatever he wants. He thinks he's going to humiliate you. You're going to put up with that? And I'm like, no, sir.
Oh, wow. So it really was tapping into anger, tapping into these negative emotions.
That first time.
To drive it.
So that first time, I put myself into a really dark place. And I went in there and I beat this guy up a little bit. And it was the first time, my first cage fight it was actually my first cage fight ever. Because before that I was a kickboxer, made the transition to MMA. This guy had challenged me to an MMA fight on the internet. He basically said, you're just a kickboxer. You wouldn't stand a minute with me in a cage fight. You don't know how to grapple. And I was like, let's find out. And
well, there's the negative emotions right there.
Yeah, but I didn't take it that way.
Called you out on the internet.
I know, right? That's the dark place I probably should have gone to logically, but I didn't because I was just way too nice for my own good, basically. So I'm a super nice guy. Just putting that out there. Not bragging. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
Right? But the cage fight is the wrong place to be a nice guy. And so Jeff, he's working me up in the corner, and like every little thing, everything he could draw on to create this dark narrative in my mind, he did. And he was like, You understand what you have to do? I was like, yes, I do. So I go in there, and I got violent.
Wow.
For the first time in my life. It wasn't a technically great fight, but it was a violent fight.
Which is what you had been lacking before.
Yeah.
So this really changed it for you, this mindset.
Yeah, and if you look it up on SureDog, it says I won the fight with a guillotine choke. I did not. I had him in a front headlock. I didn't even know what a guillotine choke was at the time. Again, I was a kickboxer transitioning to MMA. It was my first MMA fight ever, 0 grappling experience. I had him in a front headlock, looks like a guillotine choke. I was punching him in the liver repeatedly, as many times as I could with my left hand. He drops to his knees. If you've taken a liver shot, you know what that's like. He drops to his knees. I sprawl on him and keep hitting him in the liver. He starts tapping out. The referee does not see the tap out. I keep going, boom, boom, because you don't stop when the guy taps out. You stop when the referee tells you to stop.
Right.
And I just keep going, like, just like this wild, menacing darkness inside of me just coming out for the first time in my life. And it ends. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I can go back to normal now. Weird. And there was this moment, like after probably my first 10 professional fights, where there were like 2 days of just processing it afterward.
Wow.
Just processing everything. Like, man, that was strange. That was the strangest thing ever. Like my first kickboxing match, I got my ear ripped off, my left ear ripped off, and then surgically reattached. Yes, I know when your body is like disfigured, like you had your arm broken in a really gnarly way in a jiu-jitsu match, and man, what did that do psychologically to you? Like, how long did it take you to process that? Like, your bone was poking out and everything.
Well, it wasn't
Poking under the skin, basically.
Yeah, it was messed up. Oh, man. I didn't really even understand it. Like, in the moment, I didn't feel it. But yeah. I remember looking down, and my elbow was on top of my elbow basically came down and touched my hand.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that should not be there, And it, like, in the moment, I couldn't even react to it. Of course, I had to tap out. But yeah, later on, for sure, like, and you feel it when you're getting ready, when you're getting into it and moving it, and of course, you're conscious of it. If my elbow still feels different, so it does come into my mind. But if I'm in a situation that, like, if I'm sparring with someone, I'm not thinking about it at all.
Yeah. Because
I've got all these other things on my mind. It's totally taking up my mind.
Yeah, but just like let's say like 2 days after you broke your arm.
Oh, yeah.
What were you thinking, man? What was going on in your mind?
Why did I do that jiu-jitsu tournament?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's
the regret.
It's strange. Like,
why did I stand back up with him? Oh, man, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Because I knew he was good at judo, and we were already on the ground, and then I forced a stand up. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's weird when there's damage to your body remembers it. It's got this memory separate from your cognitive memory in your mind. I mean, it remembers every punch, every kick, every bit of damage, every elbow to the face, every moment where you're getting squished and crushed. It remembers the violence.
Yeah.
And processing that violence it was weird. It's one of the reasons I tell people your first 10 fights are going to suck. You might win your first 10 fights. You might lose them. You might win some and lose some, but they're going to suck because you're learning how to process that. You're learning how to flip the switches. You're learning all the incidentals the gym cannot teach you. Besides, performance anxiety, performing in front of a crowd, you're learning to put some violence in your violence. It's one of these statements I find myself saying to fighters a lot when they have trouble executing a technique, not for any technical reason, but because they're lacking the violent intent.
Right.
And you have to remember all martial arts techniques that we use, all martial arts techniques must have violent intent. They are to injure, they are to hurt, they are to do damage, they are to kill, essentially.
But not everybody is tapping into those negative emotions.
Yeah.
And like there are some fighters who...
And like I said, I only did that once.
Oh, okay.
I needed to the first time, but afterward I realized I could create different narratives in my mind. And I created narratives for a while, for a few years after that.
Well, what were those narratives like? Because Because I think about really nice, notoriously nice fighters who are competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I don't understand, because to me, this is not about competition. It's not about, I'm going to outwork this person. When you're, when you're Stephen Thompson and you're so nice, but you're very competitive and you want to win.
How do you get mad at a guy like that? Like, how could you be mad at George St. Pierre? He's the nicest guy ever, right?
Yeah, and that's another guy who was never like negative towards his opponents, was not going to some dark place in order to beat the crap out of them.
The worst thing George St. Pierre ever said was, "I am not impressed with your performance." That was his one attempt at smack talking.
Yeah.
And it became the laughingstock of the internet. He was like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm done being the heel.
Yeah.
I'm the nice guy. It just doesn't work for me."
And he was right to do that. But that's what I mean. These guys who are so nice, not going into a dark place, but they're competitive. To me, that does not make any sense, because
is even more powerful than being the heel.
But it's one thing to try to outwork somebody.
Yeah.
But to try to beat up somebody is just a whole nother level to me.
Exactly.
That I don't get.
Exactly, man.
So what kind of narratives were you making after you moved away from this negative kind of stuff?
Putting it in concrete words, like that first one, like he's dancing, so be mad at him because he's disrespecting you.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy, but it's also easy to not believe.
Yeah.
That's like acting.
Well, he's just
it's like you're playing a character. Like I have a friend, Johnny Ritchie. He had the nickname the Little Ball of Hate.
Ooh.
And before every fight, he would create this narrative that this person he's about to fight just killed his whole family and tortured them and did horrible things, and he's out for revenge, and he was like a method actor.
Yeah.
So he would tell himself this story, and he would become this character, and you would just see his face, and it was just hate, just absolute hate. Like, I hate you. I am going to kill you for what you've done. That type of thing. Like against total strangers, against nice guys, you would see that in his face. That's how he got his nickname. And if you are a method actor or have the psychology of a method actor, that can work. It worked for Johnny, but I realized pretty early on that's not going to work for me, because I'm a terrible actor. I'm a terrible actor, man. I really am. So the narratives became more abstract. It was more like, in a way, like dehumanizing the person. Like not that he's not a person, but he's a target.
Okay.
Basically, he's a target, not a nice guy. Like I had this fight against this guy, Ricardo Hernandez, who was the nicest guy. And before the fight, Ricardo, he introduces himself, shakes my hand, talks to me, and I realized, man, if we weren't fighting, this guy could be my best friend. He's so nice, man. We could hang out or something. And he's just being so incredibly nice and respectful the whole time, like up until the moment we touch gloves, and then he comes out and tries to Superman punch my head off right out of the gate. At which point I was like, okay, yeah, no longer time to be a nice guy. But that got in my head.
Yeah,
that got in my head in a big way. That's why I said it's much more powerful to be the nice guy, to be the face, than to be the heel. The heel sells tickets. The nice guy gets in your head. Like, you think Conor McGregor, gets in people's heads, with his trash talk. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the nice guy gets in your head in a much deeper way, because it prevents you from flipping that switch like you should be doing.
Mm.
So, yeah, word to the folks at home, all those kids idolizing the heels, idolizing the bad guys. Yeah, you need those guys to sell tickets, but as far as sports psychology goes, it is hard to drop elbows in the nice guy's face. And that was Ricardo. I had him up against the fence. That's when I dropped the elbows on him, when my coach told me to. That's when he gave me that look like, you betrayed me. I thought we were bros, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he gave me that look. And that was a powerful look. Like, that had that almost stopped me. It almost stopped me. Except I realized, it's a fight. He's agreed to do this. I've agreed to do this. It's a sport of fighting. We both enjoy the sport of fighting. If we didn't enjoy it, why would we be in here, right? Nobody's being forced to be in here. So, not everybody can do that. Not everybody should do that. There are plenty of people who, should train. Everybody should train. And plenty of people who are great technicians in the gym should stay in the gym. Some of them should definitely give cage fighting a try. We had this conversation a while back about, different types of boxing coaches, and I told you about this boxing coach. When people would come to his gym, the first thing he would do is punch them in the mouth and then say, "Do you still want to box?" And if they did, he would train them, and most of them would just walk right out again. And you said something along the lines of, "What a crappy trainer," right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that coaches should be that way, but everybody needs to have that punched in the face type of experience. Whether that is their first fight or a rough sparring match or something like that, they need to get punched in the face so they can answer the question, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to get in the cage and pull the trigger? Do I really want to be that person, even if it's just for 15 minutes? Can I come back from being that person? That's another thing. Like everybody says, can we flip the switch? And we assume that we can just switch it off and on again. Right? But I'm going to tell you something. Once you flip that switch, part of it is always on.
Oh.
I'm not saying you're going to go around just dropping elbows on random people. But
does it make it easier to do that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The more you do it, the easier it is to do. The more you hurt people, the easier it is to hurt people. The more you desensitize yourself to something. This probably sounds like cage fighting is evil, and it kind of is.
Wait a minute.
It's not. You're not out there holding hands. It's not checkers. It's a dirty, rotten cage fight. And I think people are mystified by the fact that there are nice guys. There are quality human beings. There are great people who do mixed martial arts. There are some shining examples of citizens of the world who are champion cage fighters. And it's hard for us to process that. How can this person be a great cage fighter and do this dirty, rotten, evil thing in the cage and just hurt somebody and still be a nice guy when they step out? I think in many ways it's harder for the fans to come to terms with than it is for the fighters. As after those first 10 fights that suck, that's about as much conditioning as it takes for the average person to, pull the trigger, if you will, I would say, as long as they can avoid the PTSD.
Right, and so they'll be able to say, okay, this is fight time, and this is my personality, my identity during the fight, and then when it's over, switch back to normal person mode, and not have to go through that time of processing afterwards.
Yeah, I guess. It's kind of like going to Disneyland.
Oh.
Here's what I mean by that.
Call back.
Okay. In real life, we don't get to go on all these fun rides every day, right? You don't get to go take a picture with Mickey Mouse every day, right? But on that special occasion where you buy the ticket to Disneyland, you can go on all the rides if you're willing to wait in those ridiculously long lines. Okay? Or let's use Dinosaur Land as another example because the lines are much shorter. So you buy your ticket to Dinosaur Land, you go there, you can watch all the crazy shows, you can go on all the crazy rides, you can go on the crazy roller coaster. They have one of the craziest ones at Dinosaur Land, by the way. It like spins around in 4 separate directions and it takes you on loop-de-loops. It's nuts. It's cool though. But on that special occasion, you go to the theme park, you can do what you want that day. And then you leave Dinosaur Land or Disneyland and you're back to normal life again.
No dinosaurs.
No dinosaurs, no Mickey Mouse, no rides, just boring work or whatever it is you do. You have to play by the rules from that point on. Okay? That's kind of what a cage fight is to a cage fighter who loves cage fighting. It's Disneyland. You get in that cage and it's that moment, that one brief moment where you got to break all the rules. You got to go on this fun ride that you don't get to go on before. It's the reward for all that hard training. A lot of people think, the fight is what you dread, and that's PTSD speaking. That's post-traumatic stress syndrome from all the hard sparring speaking. But again, to somebody who loves the sport, the cage fight is the event. It's the Disneyland. And once you get out of there, if you are a mentally well, stable human being, you recognize, all right, I have to wait until my next turn in the cage to do that again. So Did that answer the question?
I guess.
Yeah, there are no simple answers to that. There really aren't. I don't
think there is one answer for it. And I think a lot of it is something that is very difficult to understand from the outside. But like you're talking about, if you go in and have 10 fights, oh my word, like of course that would change anyone's mind or make up anyone's mind. 10 fights, you would get enough of a picture where you could understand. And if you make it through 10 fights, you've figured out how to punch people in the face, that's for sure.
It's one of those reasons that wrestlers do so well in MMA. Not so much the technique, although that certainly helps. Not so much the athleticism, although that certainly helps. That's a big part of it. But one of the big things is the wealth of amateur experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different sport. It's a similar related sport, but it's a different one. But when you have amateur experience stepping on the mat, like, a high school wrestler, by the time they finish high school, they have at least 50 matches under their belts.
Yeah.
At least. And, if they've done more tournaments, competed more, won more, significantly more than 50, right? 50 matches. They got over that first 10 sucking a long time ago. They got over the incidentals. They got over the moral hang-ups of twisting a guy into a pretzel and making him hurt.
Yeah. Or Karate Kid's probably a similar thing.
Yeah.
Like these young karate guys who grow up having tournaments from, the age of 4 or whatever. They're so used to the competition, the rises and falls, and the hitting and being hit.
Yeah, I'm very outspoken about the idea that you don't need childhood experience to be a good fighter, but what really comes in handy from that childhood experience, just like you said, is the competition. Because when you get those 10 fights out of the way when you're a kid, man, everything else is Disneyland after that, if you will, as far as fights goes.
Yeah, because I'm totally the opposite. Like I said, I played all these other sports growing up, and it wasn't until I was in my early 20s when I started doing jiu-jitsu at first. And then the idea of going in a jiu-jitsu tournament was just ludicrous. Like, oh man, I've only been doing this for how long? I bet these people have been doing it forever. I really wish I had started at a much younger age to, it's the same reason I wish I kissed a girl at a younger age, because when it finally did happen, I was so scared. I wish I just got that out of the way a lot earlier.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So that they say fighting is like Disneyland or kissing a girl. They say both are okay. They say both those things.
First time is going to be awkward, right? Man, first time I kissed a girl, I was in 6th grade. I was not expecting it to happen. She kissed me.
Oh boy.
She kissed me. There was this girl named Jennifer. She used to come over to my house after school. I don't remember why. I guess her mom and my mom were friends. And I got this idea I was going to ask her to be my girlfriend.
Oh man.
Because she was a pretty girl. So I was like, Jennifer, do you want to go with me? Because you didn't say, do you want to be my girlfriend back then? You, like in my school, we would say, do you want to go with me?
Wow.
And she just smooched me right there. I was like, I guess that's a yes. Whoa, what just happened? Ah! Am I pregnant? I don't even know what happened.
See, but you got it out of the way.
Got it out of the way, yeah.
Yeah. And now I bet you can kiss a girl no problem.
Well, exactly, because I'm married now. It didn't happen again for many years. And I guess the kissing is like fighting in this sense, because if you go for many years without any full contact experience, you might be second guessing yourself. You might be thinking, do I still have it? Can I still pull the trigger? All I've done for the last 15 years is light contact sparring. I mean, I'm really technical when the guy's not trying to kill me, but what happens when they do, right? So that's probably more along the lines of the question you were asking. So to answer that, I would say I think the Thais have it really well. Their system, the way they do it. So in the gym in Thailand, most Thai fighters are really light, really technical. They say, let's play in the ring instead of let's spar in the ring. And they're not hurting each other, especially with the elbows. Some of these guys, they have so much control, they can just get really close, but no impact with the elbow and all that. And it's just beautiful the way they're able to spar. But once every 2 weeks or once every week, depending on where they live, they get in the ring and they fight for real, and they go out and they have a full contact fight.
Mm-hmm.
And so they constantly have this validation, like every week or every 2 weeks, they have this validation. I know how to fight. So my light sparring in the gym is a representation, an honest representation of my fighting skill. So I've heard some people argue, do full contact sparring once in a while. And I tried that for a while. I tried, okay, I'm going to do full contact sparring once every 2 weeks to emulate like the Thai style of, train light and technical for 2 weeks, then have a full contact fight. And the problem with that is that you end up hurting training partners.
Yeah.
And unless you are bringing in professional fighters like, Mike Tyson and Ali did to get beat up, that doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
You end up injuring your training partners and injuring yourself, and then you lose training time. So, and at the same time, you don't learn to flip the switches in the right ways or the right switches, because you end up fighting the wrong people. When you spar at the gym, when you spar enough with the same guys, you start to recognize each other's patterns.
Yeah.
You start to learn how to beat that one guy. Like, you learn Andrew's skills, you learn Ramsey's skills, you learn how to counter that one dude, and that other dude still gives you trouble until you figure him out, right? In a lot of ways, it's much more difficult to spar my own students, even if they're not as good as some professional fighters. Like, when I spar with you, like, you figured out a lot of my game. Like, a lot of my stand-up game, you have it figured out. Yeah. And so you're one of my favorite sparring partners because you've recognized a lot of my patterns, and you can challenge me in these unique ways, and it forces me to develop my game further. But when I go to another gym and I spar with these guys who don't know anything about my game, and I can dance circles around them with my tricks, and just pull all these different tricks out that they don't know, they haven't seen yet,
Yeah.
and surprise them, right? But then I come back to the gym and I train with guys who aren't at that level yet, but they know me. And so it's a different thing. It's a different system.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, guys in your own gym have a vested interest in your success. So when we spar, I've got a vested interest in helping you succeed. I've got a vested interest in seeing that you get better. And I would like to think you have a vested interest in helping me get better as well. We're not trying to knock each other down a peg. We're trying to build each other up, right? Mm-hmm. We're on the same team. When I go to a different gym, even if we're being nice, even if we're being civilized, even if we're sparring light and friendly, there's still this different element. We are helping each other out because we're throwing all these unknown variables at each other, but at the same time, we don't have that vested interest in building you up because we're part of a different team. So it's a very different dynamic. But when you fight, it's neither of those things. You're not building each other up in any way. You're strictly trying to tear that guy down. So if we were to step in the ring at the gym and try to tear each other down, oh man, that damages the student-coach relationship in many ways. So I suppose my proposed solution to this is, if you want to be a fighter, make sure you are having fights on a regular basis to ensure that you are able to practice your craft. And you are able to flip the switch and get, those 10 crappy fights out of the way until you master that skill.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a gym rat, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you just love being in the gym and sparring and training, and that's good, and you should, and everybody should do that, and you're worried, what if I'm attacked out on the streets? What if Master Wong jumps out and tries to rip off my genitals and something like that? Who knows? Right? What am I going to do? Will it be enough? Will I be able to pull the switch in that situation?
You can't just shrug. Come on.
It was a long monologue, right? Ending with a question.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's the honest answer. I don't know. But let's find out.
Yeah. One problem I have, like I said, I don't think I have that in me. I'm the gym rat category that you talked about. I'm the latter group. where I'm not interested in becoming a professional fighter. I like working out and I like training. I like trying to know more and more about MMA and get better at MMA, but not trying to become a professional. But yeah, if that happened, if Master Wong did attack me on the street, I don't know
that example.
I don't know if it's ingrained in me, just like in myself, my own personality, whether I've trained or not. I don't know if I have that in me because I've never done that. I've never tried to hurt somebody like that. Even the situations I've been in, I've been in very mild street situations.
You don't know yourself yet. You don't know your primal self
I
yet.
haven't needed to get somebody.
There was a fighter I cornered, and I don't know his name. I never knew his name. He showed up to a fight without a corner. I was there coaching some of my fighters I trained at my gym back in the U.S., and there's this little skinny dude, and he looks like he's 14 years old. He was at least 21 because it was at a club. You had to be 21 to get in, but he looked like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And his opponent just looked like a savage. And I thought, man, this kid's going to get killed. And he comes up to me and he says, hey, can you corner me? I don't have a corner. He's got a little squeaky voice. He looks like, I don't know. I just cannot overemphasize how wimpy this guy looked.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's going to die in there, man.
And he didn't even have a corner. It just seems like he had no gym, no experience, nothing.
And it was his first fight. He hadn't really trained.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, man, I'll do what I can to help you, you know. Well, let's go see what happens. So we go in there, and this little scrawny 14-year-old looking guy, he gets punched in the face like 5 or 6 times. He just kind of stands there like a deer in headlights looking scared, gets punched in the face 5 or 6 times, and then his facial expression changes, and he screams, and he leaps through the air, does a flying guillotine choke, grabs that guy, chokes his opponent unconscious as he's screaming, just screaming at the top of his lungs. The referee has to pry this guy off of him, and it's a big referee, big strong referee, just trying to pull this guy off, like, let go, it's done, you won, and has to just tackle this dude to get him off because he's just possessed with superhuman strength at this moment. And the guy comes back to the corner. I'm like, hey, congratulations, you won your first fight. And the guy's like, whoa, what happened? What happened? I said, you just won a cage fight. He's like, well, I don't remember. I don't remember anything. I blacked out. Like, he blacked out. He had no memory. He said, all I remember is the guy was punching me, and then the referee was holding up my hand.
That's a dangerous dude right there.
Yeah. This scrawny, wimpy-looking, 14-year-old-looking adult is a dangerous dude. Like that's a guy.
That's scary.
Who didn't need the 10 fights to flip the switch and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And when he did, man, he just went on autopilot.
We were talking about going to a dark place. He went to a whole nother level.
He literally went to a dark place because everything blacked out.
Wow.
Man, he just went to the blackness, man. The blackest dark place he could.
Wow, that is scary though, because that's like, it makes me think he could do something a lot worse than that. And be like,
imagine if a guy's in that situation, you piss him off and he has a knife in his hand.
Yeah.
Or a knife in his pocket, and then he blacks out and wakes
up. What happened?
Bunch of bodies all over the place. I don't know how this happened. I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Really?
From criminal defendants, like, it was a crime of passion.
Right.
I don't remember what happened. It wasn't me. It was my other self, or, dissociative personality disorder, something like that. And somehow that's a justifiable defense. I don't know how.
Well, if he had a long history of doing it in the cage, maybe.
I wonder, right? I wonder. It makes me wonder how courts of law would take cage fighting into consideration as far as
good.
Potentially violent crimes.
Oh man, it's not good.
So there have been a few cases. One recent about professional cage fighter. I don't remember who, but committed a violent crime, and I wonder how much that weighed in to the court's decision.
Well, they always prosecute on those terms, like this man is a trained weapon. He's sharpened his body to be a deadly object. And he knows
register his hands.
Yeah, he knows all these ways to, they could show some crazy clips of MMA or something like, look what they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
He's trained to do all this, and then it turned to someone on the street and his rage poured out. It looks bad.
Yeah. At the same time, people are so selective about how they are willing to condone mixed martial arts for the streets, if you will. Like the whole for the streets, the crowd will tell you MMA sucks for the streets. It doesn't prepare you for the streets. Nothing prepares you for the streets, man.
Right.
Going back to Anthony Smith, man, if a career in the UFC did not prepare him to, control a man significantly smaller than him, although he was hyped up on drugs and all that, and all the extenuating circumstances, nothing prepares you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if a trained cage fighter, high level, strong, athletic, light heavyweight, is not prepared for that type of altercation, very few humans on this planet are prepared for that type of altercation.
Like you said, he was the best person on the block for that to happen to. He was the most prepared.
Yeah, the alternative was the old couple next door, basically.
Right, and he was still put through so much stress.
Yeah. I've wondered since I heard that interview, like, what would I do if somebody broke into my house? And, being an expat in China, it just adds a whole nother level of complexity to that because, I've got some swords in this room. You were handling them before the podcast.
Yeah, a little sword collection over here.
One of them is a Tai Chi practice sword. The other one is a real one. It's a real one with a blade on it. It's sharp. You could kill somebody with that. You could dismember somebody with that. And, like most people, I run through fantasies in my mind, and I thought, okay, if somebody came into my house, I could get my sword, and then I could stab them or something. And it was like, but would I?
Right.
Would I really?
Well, what Ramsey is getting woken up in the middle of the night? Is it everyday Ramsey, or would MMA
Ramsey with a sword wake up?
Yeah. Would you be able to tap in to that side of you?
Would I black up and would I black out and wake up with blood all over the place and a body on the floor? Who knows?
Yeah, and your wife and kids are like, "You saved us, thank you."
Man, but that's again, it's a whole nother level of complexity living here in China as an expat. Because if I did take that sword, say, what if a Chinese guy broke in the place trying to burglarize or whatever or attack, and I stabbed him with a sword and killed him? Okay, now there are all kinds of crazy laws in play here. And I'm probably going to jail for that.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good at all. Especially with the climate right now. People looking at the foreigners disdainfully like, are you bringing the virus back into China?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a good time to be making mistakes as a foreigner.
Totally. Thankfully, the crime is very low here, and someone will probably not break into your place.
Like break-ins, super, super rare here. Like violent crimes in Shanghai, it's shockingly low.
Yeah.
Compared to New York City, I don't remember. The last time I read a statistic about murders in New York, it was like 1,000 a year or something like that, which is a crazy number for me because my hometown back in the U.S. has 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
That would be like if somebody came in and just nuked my hometown.
Right.
Every year. That's the equivalent of what's happening in New York every year, right?
That makes it a lot more tangible for sure.
Yeah. But Shanghai, it's like so much lower than that by a significant margin. It's almost comical, like training for the streets, if you will, here, because street fights that do happen here are totally avoidable, and they almost always involve bad driving.
Yeah, that's all the videos we see.
Yeah, like some guy is driving crazy, or some guy dings the other guy's car. They get out, they yell at each other, then they start throwing rocks or something.
Well, I feel like there's two kinds. There's one where it's like that, and the fight is just laughable. Like, two guys are just like, just trying their hardest and not accomplishing anything. And then the other side is where it's like a premeditated fight with a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
Because that's the other one, and we don't hear about it as much. But sometimes that does happen where it's like, you get 10 guys together to try to sort out a problem.
Yeah. I mean, muggings are super rare. I've never been mugged in Shanghai.
Right.
When I lived in Argentina, I lived there for 2 years. I got mugged at gunpoint 6 times.
Yeah.
I don't mean by gangs and all
this
this.
Would not be a random thing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 10 guys just jumping you. I mean, you would have to have they're mad at you about something.
If you get beat up on the street in Shanghai, then you had a hand in making that happen, basically.
Yeah,
most likely.
That's probably a good assumption, yeah. Likely.
Yeah, so again, violent crime so incredibly low here, unless you start it. Pickpocketing, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to mug you, but they will pickpocket you.
Right.
They'll try to steal your phone.
No one will mug you to your face.
Yeah, they won't mug you. Pickpocketing. Oh, that's an interesting craft. The art of pickpocketing. It is sleight of hand. It is distraction. It's very much like the high-low principle of kickboxing. You know, throw the jab up high so you can kick them in the leg, or vice versa. They usually come up, often work in teams. They will make contact with you, like touch the shoulder or something, get your focus up here. And then, you know, the other guy comes in, and while your focus is up here, they're able to take the phone out of the pocket or something like that.
Yeah, I was watching a video. I'm really hoping it was just for demonstrative purposes, because they were getting like really nice video of this happening over and over, but it was so scary. They had maybe 6 people. Everybody had their job. It was amazingly timed, so well choreographed. Well, just like you said, the tap, the grab, like they were just openly, someone was on the phone and they would just openly take the cell phone. And then these other 4 people would step in just to create a barrier enough where the guy is looking around and there's 4 people around him who are acting normally. It seems like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Where did that guy go that just took his phone?
And nobody thinks they're going to fall for this, but they totally will.
Oh, it looked so good.
They play on the most base human instincts, and good fighters do this too. Like something so simple as like raising your hand, like throw a couple of jabs at the face, make 1 or 2 of them hurt, and then raise the hand, and you'll get the same flinch response from a jab, because to the mind it looks identical. And then you can use that fake just by raising the hand to do all kinds of crazy stuff. You don't have to jab anymore. You don't have to step into the pocket and put yourself at risk anymore. Once you've trained your opponent into this, it's a very similar thing to you're just putting pressure on part of the body. In fact, you can use the same strategy. Like, you want somebody to give up their arm, you're grappling, you're on the ground, you start punching them in the ribs, for example, and then they'll lower the arms down there, and then maybe you can trap them in a kimura that you couldn't get before. And all it is pressure. It doesn't even have to hurt. It just has to get their focus there. Mm-hmm. So, a lot you can learn from pickpockets.
Nice, yeah, you circled pickpocketing back to MMA. Nice.
It's kind of my thing, man. I kind of relate life and fighting and life, and life is a fight, and yeah, fighting is life. It's a metaphor. I mean, it is. That's why fighting is so compelling, because it is the most comprehensible narrative. And we, as humans, we communicate with narratives, with stories. Like, every word is made up of tiny little stories, an etymology, a morpheme. There's a story behind it. Chinese characters all have a story behind them. There's so many idioms, so many expressions that have a story behind them. Mm-hmm. It's raining cats and dogs. Where did that come from? There's a story behind that, right? And we think we communicate with information, but it's stories. And the fight is the most comprehensible story. Anybody, no matter what, they see that fight, especially when you put a heel and a face, the good guy and the bad guy.
Good versus evil.
The struggle between good and evil, exactly. And suddenly it becomes the most compelling story. The most compelling story of all. And that's why it is so accessible for me to relate fighting to life. A lot of people have come to my YouTube channel and they're shocked. They're like, I came here for some like fight tips or something, but I left with life advice. This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
But I think that anybody who makes an honest pursuit of martial arts, like everything that martial arts is, starts to learn a little bit of everything about what life is as well.
Nice. Ramsey, I think you need to start playing your homemade exit music, the wrap-up music.
I should put some music in this podcast, you know. Like Joe Rogan has his theme song to come in and to go out. A lot of podcasts do that.
Yeah.
And the Ramsey Dewey Podcast doesn't have its own music yet. What's up with that, man? What's up with that? Myself, Ramsey, I'm talking to myself here.
Leave a comment for yourself below.
I will leave a comment for myself below, exactly. But yeah, good point. Let's wrap this up. All right, Andrew, thank you so much for coming out here. Again, Andrew is a stand-up comedian here in Shanghai. If you're in town, go check him out when that becomes available again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
We're on
we
hiatus.
didn't talk about that. Stand-up comedy all over the world. It's on hiatus right now. People aren't gathering.
Not much going on right now.
Yeah, not a lot going on, but funny guy right here. So when he's back in business, go check him out here in Shanghai.
Please do.
All right, thanks for watching, everyone. Now get out there and train.